All right, welcome back. Welcome back to this is now week 45 now for 2024. And I'll go ahead and go through the introduction here real quick, and then I will drop the links to join on Restream if you'd like to join on video and or microphone. You do not have to come up on video if you do not want to. But as always, I definitely want you guys to feel comfortable to do so if you'd like to. Let me go ahead and skip through here. And then today we're going to be going through like a lot of the risk identification aspect. So we started doing the video segment section. So a presentation if we have one scheduled. So the following 2 weeks, actually, we have presentations scheduled. So like we have Chris coming up for ISO on the 14th. And then we have Carlin, who's going to be talking about like roadmap development the week after that. So those are two different presentations coming up. Moving forward, we're looking at like maybe two speeches or two presentations a month. The third week or the fill-in week, we would just have open discussions. And then the last Thursday of each month is going to be that job readiness and group resume review, as we discussed previously. And so this just gives us a little bit of a segment section just to kind of stay on track because we were going well over 2 hours for a long time there. And so like today, we're going to do a lot on like talking about risk. I made a little whiteboard for everybody to take a look at as well. And we still have plenty of room for open discussions if anybody has any questions, wants to talk a little bit more. Oh, the neon? Yeah. Yeah, do you like that part, Dwight? All right, and then some of the guidelines here. So just keep in mind, it is a business casual meeting. It is recorded and live streamed. Now, definitely want you guys to feel comfortable to come up on stage, on mic, turn on your video if you're comfortable doing so. Definitely ask questions, anything to do with the cybersecurity aspect, GRC, even if it doesn't relate to what we're talking about at that time. Worst case scenario, we'll come back around to it or try to fit it in where it best works. Definitely drop your personal LinkedIn. So I don't believe you'll be able to do that on YouTube, although you can join our Discord, and I'll go ahead and drop that in here. So if you join on Discord, we have a channel just for the live chat, which you can put your LinkedIn link into. Definitely share any useful resources, what's working for you, bring topics up, or just feel comfortable to jump into it. I believe imposter syndrome is way too common across the industry, even with actual practitioners of 10, 15, 20 years. And so don't be afraid to join the conversation, even if you're not too familiar with it, or even bring something else up. If you have a question, it's very, very likely somebody else has something at least similar to it. Don't share anything you don't want to be public. If you do happen to do so, just let me know. Reach out to me on Discord or LinkedIn, or even just try to reach out to me directly so I definitely get that message. Or you can also email us at contact@studygrc.org, and we'll get that taken off or figure out what we can do about that. Now, studygrc.org is where you can go for the Discord link, the YouTube channel. We have an X channel now. We are looking at going on to Facebook and then also Twitch streaming as well, just to add a couple other platforms there. There's additional information on there too. We also have a resource page where we've just been adding all the different communities, tools, all kinds of useful things on there. And then I'm going to go ahead and transition over to this side here. Let me go ahead and I'm going to skip back to this very beginning for a moment. So let me go ahead and drop this link in here for everybody. So if you guys would like to join on the stage itself, this is the link that you would join. When you go through that process, you can go through and select to have your camera off, mic only, or however you want to do it. We do have 9 additional spots on there. So that's the only limitation. So if you aren't actively participating on that, then and somebody else wants to, then that's how we'll work that out. But I think this method will work. All right, let's see. Oh, welcome to the party, GRC Academy. We've definitely discussed them before. All right, and so I got that link in there. We got Discord in there. All right, and then let's see. So one of the big discussions for tonight, we had discussed it before about like doing some type of exercise for like risk identification and something a little bit more hands-on or otherwise. And so I went through and I made a little whiteboard, which I'll drop that link here in a moment. But so we'll take a look there. And that's also one reason why we recommended for you guys to join from a desktop if possible, just to make that process a little bit easier, but we'll still figure it out otherwise. So like NIST definition for risk identification is the process of finding, recognizing, and describing risks. We've shared this resource before, especially for the different terminology in the industry. I think NIST has an amazing glossary here. All right, let's see. And then I'm going to go ahead and share my whiteboard here, and I will get you a link to this as well. So with this link, you guys will be able to comment on this. And I'm going to go ahead and walk through some of the different, like how we plan on going through this. So I went ahead and did this through Canva here. All right. So let me go ahead and line this all up. All right, so what we are looking at here is we have our risk matrix that we're going to utilize throughout this little exercise. I put 3 different scenarios here, and then we also have a whole category of different types of like data types, investment records, invoices, receipts, and so forth. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and we're going to look at each one of these different scenarios. We're going to kind of define them a little bit further as we go through them. And we're going to talk a little bit about like the risks involved with that and where that would fall. Like some of the different stuff that we have to further define is like more information about the business, what industry are they in, you know, and so forth in order to be able to actually give a likelihood and severity for that. One of the things that you guys can do as on your own here is you can go through and you can comment on these. So if you just click on them, you can go ahead and drop a comment. You also do not have to sign in to do this at all. No registration is required. So that's going to be the collaborative aspect here is you can drop your comments in here to provide some additional feedback. And the idea for the risk types or the data types on the right-hand side here is we'll go through and you guys can leave comments, or I was even thinking you guys could do reactions to see about like adding in, you know, like, the main concern with this is going to be the confidentiality or the availability, or you can add comments based on like, what is your take based on that type of data type? And this is kind of what we're going to go through here. Let's see. So, and then if anybody joining on Restream wants to come up on stage, just go ahead and drop that. There's also the private chat in the bottom left. Yeah, welcome Larry and White Mage. Everybody else, Space Tacos. We got Dwight, Rhonda, bam, AB Showtime and GRC Academy made a thing here. Attending this a few days ago. So before we dig into this portion here, I see Rhonda posted that. Let me go ahead and pull that up real quick. Is that there was a CMMC thing that was happening on the 1st as well. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend. Oh, Conquering Imposter Syndrome. Okay. I think you've shared this resource before with the O'Reilly thing. I wonder if any, are those maybe recorded? Is that something where they publish those videos maybe? All right, and then let me go ahead and try some of this music here. So we have something in the background. They don't have very many options here. All right. And so one of our very first things that we're going to go through here, let's try rain. And if there's any particular topics or anything that you guys want to share, go ahead and drop those in chat too. And then we can bring those up as well. I'll go ahead and do this one here. And let me know if the music's too loud or otherwise as well. So you didn't see a way for you to join there? Are you talking about on Restream or otherwise? So I'll drop the link again. I could put it in the general chat as well. I'll drop it in general chat, so you can join the Restream side of it. Okay, yeah, I can take a look at that, or if anybody does find that recording portion, I think that's a really important topic. Especially at like Wild West, for an example, it was a pretty common thing. So Space Tacos asked, any chance there's a recorded reading of NIST out there anywhere? So like last week when I was on site for Simply CyberCon, we were going through some of the different key aspects for the 830 for conducting risk assessment. And that's one of the different things that I've looked at before, is going through and actually reading through those documents, just like on a recording or live on YouTube, and then we could start a whole archive of it. I've gone through a lot of the NIST docs already, although I think that's another thing that I'm going to go through and do, because I feel that they could be reduced down to key points, and then we could just go over like the most important sections. It is time consuming, but like something for like the 830, for an example, we could probably go through that whole thing in a couple hours. I think that would be a good series. All right, and then let's see here. Hey, welcome to the party, Luke. All right, and then I'm going to pull some of these people up on stage here. So you're up here as well, Rachel. So if you wanted to introduce yourself, you're welcome to do so. AI won't do it for you. So like I have looked at that before for the NIST documents as far as reading it to you, but the problem is the way that they have it formatted in the PDFs makes it extremely difficult, because then it reads like all the page numbers, a lot of the different, like it really messes up a lot of it. So like Amazon Poly is what I've used in the past, which does work for the most part, but you have to like copy and paste like sections of the document at a time, and then take out all the junk. So it does make it a little bit more difficult. And I don't think it's nearly as engaging. I think a large portion of the NIST documents are bloat, really. And I think just condensed versions like a too long didn't read type of style format would be most useful, really. Because we could go through and read all, 200 pages or whatever, but only about 30 or 40 of those pages are actually valued. Yeah, Rhonda has a lot of resources, especially for the military community. She shared several different resources in the past. All right. Yeah, take out some sections, yeah, and make children's stories out of them. I think we're starting to kidnap Luke into the GRC side of things. Yeah, don't tell her I said that. Yeah, I'm sure we could figure something out. All right. And then did you want to introduce yourself, Rachel?
Sure. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
You
Perfect.
are live.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel. I've been in cybersecurity for about a little over 8 years now. Main focus has been security analysis as well as GRC. A lot of the resources that I utilize are looking at frameworks online, such as the NIST framework. OWASP has a lot of good top 10 that they go through, and MITRE ATT&CK also has a lot of threats that they list. So I do look at a lot of free resources. Other than that, happy to be here with everyone.
Yeah, and I'm also dropping her LinkedIn in chat here if you guys would like to reach out and connect. And then I see AB Showtime's over here as well. Did you want to introduce yourself, AB? You should be able to unmute yourself in the bottom or click on the settings icon to set that. There you are.
Yes, yes. All right. Well, again, my name is Abhay. I come to cybersecurity from software, IT, and product, and PKI and stuff like that background. I don't have much background from GRC, so I'm here to learn from you all. You guys are all experts in GRC from what I can collect from your chats and all that. So that will be great for me to learn. So thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you here as well. Yeah, even coming from the technical side or otherwise, I think it's a great skill to have. And I don't know, I personally don't really care for the whole word expert per se. It seems like everybody has their strong suits, but even GRC is so broad and with so many different things underneath it. So yeah, but yeah, it's great to have you here. And then yeah, definitely feel free to hop in or anything if you'd like, AB.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Let's see. All right, and then that's the link again for Canva. So here in just a moment, I'm going to go through and start this first exercise. And then let me copy this over again. And then in the Discord general channel, I posted this link, but you could also join the restream by clicking on this link as well. And then also AB and Rachel, if you guys want to come back up on stage, B-dubs can do it, or you can also message in that bottom left-hand chat there so we can pull you up. Let's see here. All right, so this very first part is going to be, so the audit reveals in several departments, employees have access to both authorize and record transactions, creating opportunities for errors, fraud, and misappropriation of assets. This lack of segregation of duties is particularly concerning in the accounting and finance departments, where a single individual can emanate, approve, and record payments. All right, so one of the first initiate, approve, and record payments. So one of the important parts here is like, now we should break this down and figure out like, okay, what is the risk here? Let me see. I got to move some of this around for the chat itself. All right. That should help. All right, so if anybody has any additional input that they want to put on here, you can drop that in chat, or you can also join this and then add the comments here as well. So the audit reveals in several departments, employees have access to both authorize and record transactions. So they don't have proper segregation of duties, in particular concerning in accounting and finance departments, where a single individual can initiate, approve, and record payments. So there's a lot of information that's not included in this. So like, who is there a person particularly in charge for reviewing, for auditing the transactions? That would be one of my first questions. I think this is something that's often overlooked. I would hate to say large businesses. However, especially small and medium-sized businesses, I could see this being a thing where you just have one person who's, doing everything there. And it does outline some of the risks there itself. And if we look at the CIA, so confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So like integrity is one aspect. So I would be looking at integrity. Are we going to be able to be able to track that back to who initiated, approved, or recorded that payment in that particular system? Are we going to be able to say that later on and be like, oh, it was 100% this person, or is it they're also a shared account, for an example? That would probably be worst case scenario. And it also depends on business size too. So they do say several employees have access to both authorize and record transactions. I mean, at least they're recording them, right? Did anybody else have anything else to add? Let's see. That'd be some of the first questions I would be looking at is, for the integrity of it, are we able to identify who? And then also, I feel that this would be something easy to integrate into segregation of duties. Especially if they have several employees, then you would have, one person who, initiates it, like a salesperson, well, not necessarily a sales, but like acquisitions. And then you'd have some type of official approval process. And then you would need another person for recording those payments, or at least separating it between two different parties that don't work together. And also, if you guys wanted to, you can also take a look at these ones on the right-hand side here. So as we go through any of these discussions or otherwise, the side over here, I was looking at like maybe we could do reactions on this. This is a tool that we should probably look at more. So they do have some limitations. Yeah, so like Dwight mentions regular access reviews. Let me go ahead and pull that up here. So Dwight does mention regular access review is going to be a control they're failing, user access permission card. So I was hoping with the reactions we'd be able to do letters. So you can mark them like C, I, or A based on what you think would be the highest one. However, it looks like you could just do a comment. So like invoices and receipts, what is going to be the most important part? I'm going to go ahead and say I for integrity. And then we would be able to take a look at that when we click on it. I don't know what I did there, but we'll see. Yeah, so I think the biggest things here is it's just like, so Space Tacos also mentioned. My first thought is fraud and theft when there's no segregation of duties in this scenario. Yeah, and I think that's that would probably lead to like the root analysis there. As far as the or the root cause or root issue is the fact that like one person can go through and do the whole thing. So like there was a scenario with Google, for an example, where there was a particular person in charge and they were able to funnel out hundreds of thousands of dollars because they were able to initiate, approve, and record the payments. And they did this for over a year. Which I think is why like making sure that the recorded portion and being able to identify who's making those would be a very crucial part there. Yeah, and I can see if I can find that article again too, but yeah, it was pretty bad. I think PBO actually went through and did a video on it. So there's PBO's channel there, but I'm pretty sure he did a video on that as well. But yeah, regular access reviews would be one, going through and setting up the segregation. Another key thing that I've heard about, like separating the job duties, is you also want to kind of make sure and kind of vet them as well to make sure that, you know, they're not related. They're not, you know, they don't work side to side per se. It would be ideal if they don't really have much of a connection. Yeah, exactly. Some type of audit logging, because I think the biggest issue would be like, what if they're sharing an account on whatever accounting software that they're utilizing? What if it's a shared account and you don't even know who? It would be very difficult to be able to say, oh, it was this person. That would probably be the worst case scenario. So that way, a year down the line, when you find out that you lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, you wouldn't be able to identify who it was. Space Tacos mentioned, yeah, I just watched a story about a guy who did something crazy like that. He only did it because of medical bills, but then he couldn't stop. It was crazy. Yeah. And what I found insane about it is that it's typically, most of the cases that I've seen, is it's over a long period of time. You know, we're talking 6 months or longer. There was another incident, I think it was with a Wendy's or some fast food restaurant, where an employee had made a fake employee and was receiving their paychecks when that employee never actually existed. They just made somebody out of thin air in the system and then collected their paycheck. And that went on for a very long time as well. So key takeaways is going to be, yeah, so the key portions of this exercise is to identify like what are some of the different risks that are involved here and how could this be like mitigated. So we're just trying to kind of break it down a little bit to just identify the risk aspect and then what could be done with that. And then I'm going to go ahead and move to the second one. If anybody else has anything else to add on that, you're more than welcome to. Threat Actor Academy 101. Is that an actual thing, FedEx? That sounds like that would be a thing. So this next one, the audit discovers that the organization is not fully compliant with relevant data privacy regulations, GDPR, CCPA, etc. Specifically, the organization lacks proper procedures for obtaining consent for data collection, providing data access to individuals, and responding to data deletion requests. So, lacks proper procedures for obtaining consent, collection, for data collection, providing data access to individuals, and responding to data deletion requests. So, again, this isn't really well defined. We can come up with a couple different scenarios based on this. But let's say a newsletter, for an example. Let's say a business has a newsletter and they don't have any type of privacy policy or like a terms of conditions that are attached to that. They're not officially obtaining consent or otherwise for the newsletter. So in order, I forget what it's called. Dwight might know offhand. But there's a particular like regulation or otherwise that outlines that you need to get consent in order to keep do a newsletter, which is also one reason. Was it like ICANN or something like that maybe? I know that outlines like the reason why these newsletters have to have like the unsubscribe at the very bottom. I'm sure the GDPR does have some things in relation to that as well. Like another thing with this too would be there's a couple different things around GDPR for obtaining consent. So you have to like notify, that's where like the privacy policies and terms and conditions come in. So that way the customer or the end user understands what data is collected and how it's utilized. And so it sounds to me like maybe they don't have a actual privacy policy outlined, or maybe they don't outline how they use it or what data they collect. I think another popular way that this comes about is like they don't update it regularly. So like maybe the consent for data collection, maybe they started collecting a couple different forms of data and they never updated their privacy policies or anything like that. So then now it's out of date and they're collecting data that they're not disclosing. Yeah, like Dwight mentions, they don't make you click that you read their 30-page privacy policy. Yes, exactly. Let's see. So a good instance of this is the COPPA, where you have to get prior consent for collecting the data of children under the age of 13. Yeah, so just like Dwight mentions here, so let's say, I don't know, I think most websites nowadays actually outline that like their website or service is not available or not supposed to be available for children under the age of 13, or some of it's even like 14. Yeah, and Dwight also mentions some states require prior to consent for biometric data or some other laws for different areas. And so that's what I'm thinking. That's what I kind of take away from this, is that like they're collecting data that they're not actually disclosing. And then also providing data access to individuals. So lacks proper procedures for obtaining consent for data collection, providing data access to individuals. Let's see here. And so I think one of the first things that I would be looking at is like, what do they have to follow in the first place? What regulations apply? Especially if it's something like the GDPR or the CCPA, what their state portions are. Let's see. And then based on that, I would be looking at going through and revamping that privacy policy, terms and conditions, and so forth. Also, it looks like Luke here. So risk to company. Company would be sued if PII was found and with no related consent. And that's what the real risk is we're talking about financial risk for fines and so forth, but then also legal issues potentially, and also brand reputation. So there's been several different statistics put out recently that I've seen where the end users, the consumers, are taking the privacy portion more serious. And so it's actually suspicious when, they don't sign up on an app, or when they sign up on an app or they go to a website and it doesn't pop up, that disclaimer at the top about cookies, or they don't have a privacy policy at all. I don't believe that many people are like actually looking through that, but the fact of whether or not they have that. So financial, reputational, legal issues, potentially. So, well, if they have a policy but don't get consent or honor deletion requests, FTC would be all over it. Yeah. Well, and I think one of the biggest issues here, too, is they're supposed to outline what type of data they collect as well. And I've seen incidences and heard about that before where a company expands or adds features that collects more data, and, they don't update their policies properly or notify the customers correctly either. Because it's also just like you mentioned, like some states have regulations or laws on like biometric data, for an example. So if a company started collecting that, but then didn't properly get consent prior or otherwise, that could be an issue. Yeah, and also this winner 9642 was going to mention the COPPA as well. Yeah, can spam. Yeah, so I believe it's the can spam one, which is the one that requires like the unsubscribe in the emails that are on like a mailing list. And like the GDPR has way more like regulation on that aspect. Yeah, Dwight is definitely in the privacy section here. FTC has also prosecuted a case where they tried to update their policies retroactively without notification. Wow. Yeah, that's a big red flag. Welcome to the party, PBO. And again, dropping the link to his channel too. So it sounds like PBO is now going live Tuesdays and Wednesday nights. So Tuesday nights, like going over the RMF family groups, and then Wednesday nights about different sections of the cloud or labbing or, you know, more technical hands-on, it sounds like. All right, and then let's see. And then we'll go through this last one right here, and then we'll start going through some of this data stuff on the right-hand side. So again, if you guys wanted to go through and start leaving your comments on here, you can. So it looks like quite a few of you guys did join in over here. I can go ahead and drop that one more time here. Let's see. So that's the link to the Canva. And so if you just click on each one of those, you can go ahead and leave a comment. And what I was thinking with this portion of the exercise is just outline like what you feel is the most important aspect of that type of data type. Is it confidentiality, integrity, availability? We can also add some other things like utilizing the risk matrix on the left-hand side. We could, you know, like financial records for an example. You know, we might come up like with a scenario like financial records, or I think there's a receipt one there. Yeah, so invoices and receipts. You know, what if somebody breaks in and steals invoices and receipts? What is the risk involved with that aspect? Like, is that actually going to be a problem, or is that low on the food chain? All right, and then I'm going to drop this link for Restream as well. So again, if anybody wants to come up, definitely feel comfortable to. You can also use the bottom left-hand side here to see the private chat. Oh, I see Luke hopped. Are you there, Luke? Are you there, Luke?
Hello? Can you hear me? Ooh.
Yeah, I see you hopped in here.
Oh, was I not allowed? I was just clicking links and taking advantage of the extra access you've given me, you know, that I didn't give, you didn't give consent to. I guess you just did. So.
Yeah, no, you're good. So when you guys join, I just have to bring you guys up on stage, but yeah, no, I want people to join in here.
I was just cool hanging out backstage. I didn't, yeah, let me see if sharing my camera works. Hold on, why isn't it? It's not letting me share my camera. What'd I do? I didn't do it.
Oh, I'm just messing with you. Yeah, no, you're perfectly fine. Yeah, I can throw you back in the backstage or otherwise. You're perfectly fine. It is difficult, especially from a cell phone, if you're on there.
No, I'm on my computer, but it's not letting me turn on the camera. What did I do wrong? I did something wrong. Well, my camera was like, flashing. It was flashing the background, and so I didn't want to give somebody a seizure when I was on there. So that's why I just did the. I do.
That's all right. Not a problem.
I give
Yeah,
kudos to everybody here who loves and who deals with GRC, because my experience has never been a good one. So I respect it. That's what I guess that's. So
could you go into a little bit more detail there? Like, what was your bad experience with GRC without giving out too much information?
I've always been from an operational, been in the operational side of things, and the corporate. I mean, let me think about it. The way that the GRC teams that I've worked with, how they've had to deal with the corporate BS, and in order to push, certain requirements, regulations, push certain. That's not the right terms. Those aren't the right terms. Change. Try and get the policies and try and get the company's attitude changed is not something that I would want to deal with personally. And that's, so when I say I dealt with it, I observed it. I observed a lot of the junk, a lot of the crap, a lot of the pushback from higher ups in the company that don't want to do it because it's a lot of times, it's secure isn't convenient. And so more power to you. I mean, does that answer your question? I hope that.
Yeah, I think so. Like, the way I would condense that down a little bit would probably be
I'm
like
not saying
the
it right.
difficulty with. Oh no, I understand. Yeah, so like the difficulty in getting like buy-in and working
There
with
you
like
go.
the C-suite, for an example, or the higher ups, trying to get that funding, which I think is one of the biggest issues you find across GRC is, it's it costs money. So
Yeah.
some people say that it's often looked upon as just a direct cost. And I think that's one of the crucial skills, is being able to figure out how you can verbalize and communicate the value that GRC actually brings. PBO has several videos where he talks about that aspect. Oh, and talk about the devil.
Yeah.
Now we got PBO coming up on stage.
And I just subscribed to his channel too, and that's where I saw the Marzi and CMS, because my company, we deal with health and state information, and so I get it. Whole other level because of that stuff.
Yeah, and it's just like you mentioned. So yeah, like on his, not only does he have Marzi, but he also has ITAR. He has the 53. There's all kinds of different steps that he's gone through on his channel there. Lots of different things. Definitely check it out. That's why I have it on a little hotkey thing now. How's it going there, PBO?
I'm doing all right. Can you hear me? My mic is acting a little funny.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Loud and clear.
No, but he brought up a good point, and we talk about that, is how to get corporate buy-in. That's why I try to do federal work, because they have to. We can't get the data right, so that cuts down a lot of the argument. You still have few, but when you're trying to get that government money, you got to do that government compliance, and that kind of helps out a huge deal. So
yeah, that's a good point. I have heard somebody say that when you're working with the government, like especially federal, they'll be like, you need it, all right, you got it. If it's for those regulations and compliance.
Yeah, so when people push back, I go, and I do a lot of IRS work. These are the IRS requirements. So if we want to do business with them, these are the requirements we need. But I try to work with them, right? I got a technical background, so let me help you. I've done some stuff before. Here's some mitigating controls if we can't do it exactly laid out. So, I try to assist them in there. If I tell them no, I try to have another plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like you have a dedicated video just for that, PBO, just for like talking about getting buy-in and so forth.
I think I do too. I was searching through my videos. I thought I had a guard duty video. We were talking about that yesterday, and I did not. So I was surprised.
So on our resources page, actually, if you scroll down here, we got the Trello boards here. We got some free resources and so forth, along with these groups and communities. Down here towards the bottom, I have videos, and these are just some personal favorites. If you guys have anything else that, or like really good videos related to the GRC aspect, definitely let me know. But there's this one right here, How to Sell Security to C-Levels by Chris Brenton. This is a personal absolute favorite. So I'll go ahead and drop this in chat as well. He just outlines like how you have to verbalize that in like a financial aspect, because that's what they're worried about, is the money. Like, how much is it going to cost me, and how much is it going to make me?
How long it's going to take?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That was what I usually get from the C-suite. Less security, and to kind of talk about that in that realm. And we kind of talked about that, kind of getting that information in a planner so you can kind of do it a little different and maybe get out of spreadsheets.
Yeah. Let's see, and then I see you dropped a link there, PBO. What was that?
R Squared. It's free Splunk training for veterans. Shout out to R Squared, Rhonda Rumfield in there. She was dropping her military stuff. So I saw that today. That came up on my timeline on LinkedIn. So I wanted to share that. And I put that on my community tab. So Splunk is super hot. It's only big companies have it though, but that's definitely hot.
Yeah, and Space Taco says that she understands.
Oh yeah. I've gotten to shout matches with CTOs before, so it can get a little crazy.
All right, let's see. I'm going to drop this link one more time, and then there's also the link for this Canva. Let's see, and then I'm going to go ahead and continue going through this part here. And as always, if you guys have anything else to add here, definitely bring it up. All right, all right. So now on this third exercise, or this third scenario here, we're looking at, let's see. All right, so the audit reveals that the organization does not have a comprehensive disaster recovery plan in place. There are no documented procedures for backing up data, restoring critical systems, or communicating with stakeholders in the event of a major disruption, such as a natural disaster, cyber attack, or a fire. That is, I would definitely put that in the high. So,
yeah.
I mean, it does depend on the company's size, like what is the company doing, but the fact that they does not have a comprehensive disaster recovery plan and no documented procedures for backup. So it's likely that they don't even have anything backed up. So they could not be a business if something were to happen potentially.
True. A couple people went out of business doing that. So
yeah, I could see that occurring. You know, a hurricane comes by and everything gets washed away. You have nothing left to go back to. Yeah. I mean, that's my biggest thing. Wow. Yeah. Of course, I think it does depend on that business aspect too, because especially if you are of size, then you also have to figure out what do you need to back up. Mm-hmm. So I've heard about that being an issue, because you can't just back up everything, right?
Yeah, we talked about that. It's called a BIA, Business Impact Analysis. That should rank your business functions, and your business functions is related to technology. So that's kind of how we prioritize and figure out what we need to back up, what time. Then you got the RTO and the RPO. All right, how long can it be down, and how much data you can lose is the two key factors in there.
Yeah. Let's see.
I got a couple videos on that if you need it.
Oh yeah, you did one. What was that? Like, I think 800, 160 or something, all about like
yeah,
recovery.
Yeah. And most
of the PBO has it all.
Yeah, most of the federal agencies now are really drilling down on that. They want you to actually test your backups. Long story, true story. My second job, we were taking backups. The backup software said we were good. Then we tried to put it back down. The head actually cracked and we didn't know it. So the data wasn't going down evenly. So we were scrambling. Long story short, we had to probably put down 10 backups. And since it was hierarchical, we kind of pieced them together. So ever since then, I'm like, hey, we got to test the backups. We got to put them down somewhere and read them. I think software is a lot better now though too. But yeah, so we try to at least put it down and read your database backup, restore it somewhere, and then actually read it.
Yeah, so one of the videos that you do have is regarding 834, which is Contingency Planning Guide for Federal Information Systems. That's one of the videos you did. I'm going to drop that video in chat as well. That I don't think I've seen that one, actually. So that was back in 2020, or I'm sorry, 2022.
I was going to say, I thought I had a DR backup too, right? Because DR is usually more the actual technology.
Yeah.
Because we did the one where we were talking about Coop. If your building gets hit, how do you go? Where do you go? What type of equipment you have? We had
I remember talking about that, like disaster recovery. I can't find that video though. That was like in the last 6 months.
Yeah, it was. Let me see if I can find it. I gotta do better organization. I got a lot of videos. So, especially now that I'm going through all the families.
786 videos with an average of over 2 hours a pop. All right. I'm going to double check chat over here. And Luke, it's great to have you in here, by the way. It's great to see so many familiar faces. I've met most of you guys in person. We got to get PBO to go to Simply CyberCon next year.
PBO, I might. I very rarely use my house, though. Maybe I need to change up.
So AB did have a question here. So AB Showtime, who would GRC practitioners mainly deal with in the corporate? Always with the decision makers. I think it depends on what level you're at, because you might be on a team. But I would be looking at like the CISO, the CISO, or what is it, CTO would be the next ones.
All levels, really. It depends on what part. GRC is a huge domain. So if you're a senior guy like me, you can deal with the CISO, CIO, board of directors. I was a practitioner, so I had to take the STIG requirements out to the actual development teams and walk through with them. Infrastructure, programming. So depending on where you're at in GRC and specifically what you're doing, a lot of times you have to work with the whole organization. Most times, though, most people partition it. I partition it in two pieces, technical and management. A lot of times GRC works with management. There, you probably be working with the C-suite, like Chris said, and just the team leads. A lot of times, if you want to roll your sleeves up and get dirty, you got to take those hardening checks out to the individual teams and make sure they're done right. Right? You got to do security reviews with the security architecture to make sure that's done right from a GRC perspective. The security architect's gonna make sure it's secure, but usually GRC, we're looking at IRS, Chris favorite one, CMC, GDPR. Shout out to my man Dwight out there doing big things. So depending on what part of GRC you're doing, you can touch out every part of the organization. And the more skills you have, right, the more valuable you are and the more money you can make.
Yeah, and also like Space Tacos, and then also Rachel here mentions that, speaking with the organizational business unit manager, the decision maker, because also on a large enterprise, you're not going to be talking to the board of directors or anything like that. You're going to be talking to whoever's in charge of that department, right?
Right. Usually what happens is, I say board of directors, a lot of times you get an assignment and the CISO is going to give it to the board of directors, but one time you might have to do some STIGs or do a dashboard. What is your 10 pain points from a GRC perspective? So you have to get that written up and give it to the CISO, or a lot of times I work for the compliance director. So depending on how big your organization. So.
And then also, whoa, nice. STIGs are fun.
Or not fun.
No.
Everybody hates the STIG. I'm the only person like STIGs. Shout out to STIGs. Usually you doing DOD work for FISMA, you correctly. And what's his name? Mamari? What was his name?
Moraletti. Yeah, I'm not sure the proper pronunciation. Yep. Maybe she wants to come up and give us the right one.
Yeah, too. Also, I got STIG videos too on different technologies. If you want those, just give a shout in the chat. We can get you some STIG videos. Not fun, but you can get paid for them because they hard. Shout out to it. Security's not easy. We got to put on our big boy pants. Let's roll. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. All right.
I need to do a STIG playlist.
Yes, yeah, you should go through each and every single step on the STIG. You should do videos on that, like for Windows. There's some out there for AWS.
I've got them probably for 5 videos going through the STIGs. I got them from Tom.
I'm talking about implementation of such. You should like spin up a VM and actually show the technicals.
Oh shit!
Come on, PBO.
Because you know the STIG's gonna break something. I don't feel like usually if it breaks something, I can send that to the technical guys.
It's a VM. You're fine. Just burn it.
No, you're right. I might need to do that, especially from a Active Directory standpoint. Putting it to the OUs and assigning your server or your laptop to the proper OUs and assigning the STIGs to your OUs. So that I might break that down. See what that will actually look like from a GRC and a security analyst part. With like Space Taco said, operation, rolling your sleeves up.
Yeah, I'm dropping this link again to AB if you want to hop in. Let's see. I haven't even made my own account mod here. Let's see.
Yeah, shout out to you. Great video on the CISO assistant today. I was relaxing, napping while I was listening to that. It was a good video though. How's that coming? You spinning that up? You getting that rolling?
So they went ahead and gave us an installation for that, just so that way we could trial it as a community and work in there together and so forth. And so I've been kind of playing around with it off and on for the last couple months.
Okay.
The fact that they have the community edition that's completely open to anybody, I find incredible. Like you could run that on your local machine. You could put that in the cloud if you wanted to. You would be responsible for the deployment and safety of that. But the fact that that's available is phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
So
we should spin it up in AWS, man. Now harden it ourselves.
Yeah,
we can spin it up in AWS.
I mean, we could.
We can STIG it.
I think that would be. Yeah, I think that would be a really good video to do with. Let's see. I think that would be a really good video to go through and do like the AWS edge computing too, because we can make it to where like we can only access it, in the cloud as well, as that additional step that we discussed before in your video.
Yep. We got a guest, Chris.
All right, let's see.
Who's the guest, Chris? We got. You gonna let them chime?
Which one? Oh, so AB up here. So AB joined in again. Did you have anything else to add there, or another question there, AB?
No, actually, I had I had a stupid question. Actually, I was thinking about and PBOs. So please pardon me because I already announced I don't have much GRC knowledge. I come from a different background. I was really thinking I'm here just to learn from you guys, and so I had a really stupid question in my mind. Like you as GRC practitioners, do you guys read John Maxwell's and those people where they talk about good people skills and good negotiation skills? Do you do that?
I do because I'm a senior guy, so most of that a lot of times is communication. So as you get up, when I was a junior person, I just did tech stuff. I didn't like talk to people, but as a senior person, I got to communicate with the C-suite, the project owners, and the technical guys. So that's different levels of communication. So yeah, communications is paramount at a senior level. I think if you're junior, when I work with my junior guys, usually I just give them an assignment. They usually do it and report it back to me, then I communicate with them. So the higher you get up, I think that's with any job in tech. That's why project management was created, because tech guys couldn't communicate. Right. So I think that's a hidden skill. Then especially, like I said, with the C-suite and the different managers, sometimes it can get testy with GRC. They don't want to do it. It costs too much. We haven't done this in 30 years. So you have to be able to communicate that in an effective way. So Space Taco, chime in on that. She does operational stuff. But no, this is a safe space, no dumb questions. Everybody's learning, man. So we definitely welcome you and all your questions, man. So stop apologizing. We love when people come up here and And that's why I came here. I'm an old guy. I came here to help people out. So, and I taught for 10 years at a community college. So definitely no dumb questions. We all learning. We all getting better. And even at my age, Chris does some stuff. I was like, I didn't know you could do that. So we all learn. We all learning, man. It's the cool thing.
I think that's
cool thing and bad thing about tech is it's ever changing. You are always learning, like relational. I started on mainframe, relational. Now I'm turning containers and Dockers and Kubernetes. So you always learning. So that once again, there's no dumb questions. Chime in on that, Chris.
Just a second. Okay, there we are. That was kind of sketchy. It said connection lost for a second there, but
you glitched.
But yeah,
a
no,
bit.
I mean,
you did glitch like the Matrix.
Yeah, the soft skill aspect is really, really important, especially on the GRC side. I think that's probably one of the more difficult things if you do like, infrastructure, for an example, or something like that, where you're not talking with people all the time. But you were like talking about books, and so like this is, it might not come up, but so Stop Asking Questions. It's a book all about like interviewing and talking with people and soft skill aspect. And this was a top recommendation from Jerry. So I could drop this in chat here in a moment, but this is one of the books that I'm working through. But yeah, just like PBO also said, is that the soft skills is really, really important and so forth. And it's an open space. So anybody who wants to come up, ask questions, drop in chat and so forth. We're trying to keep an eye on chat especially. But yeah, no stupid questions at all. That's one of the best things about this industry is the fact that it's so broad.
It is.
But yeah, so far this book is kind of interesting, but it's one of the things that I'm trying to brush up on too. I think it's easier when you come from like a customer service background to an extent, but you also have to figure out how you could talk to these different departments, which is also where like knowing the technical side is important. So you can have those conversations.
So when it says stop asking questions, what is the author talking about?
No, I didn't like that either.
So the whole aspect of stop asking questions is the fact it goes into like the psychology of how you should properly conduct engagements. So too many people just go through and they just ask a question like, oh, with no end in sight. You need to have a goal. Like, why are you asking this question? Refining your question so that way you have that end goal and you actually get what you're looking for. The reason they wrote this book is because they've noticed that too many people are just out there aimlessly throwing things out. So
I don't like that. I don't like that, Chris, but go ahead. I don't like that.
You don't like the fact that they go into the psychology aspect?
No, man. I think if you got a question, ask a question. But I see where you're going with it, man. I think we overthink. Where the other person go? They just dropped out. Come back. But no, I see what you're saying. Oh, they're back. Okay.
Yeah, did you have anything else to add there, Space Tacos?
Well, PBO wanted me to chime in. Can you hear me?
You can. You're crystal clear. What
am I chiming in on? I forgot.
Operational input from a soft skills perspective. What's your thoughts on that? Because I think we work at different domains of the GRC, so I wanted you to chime in.
Right. So for communication skills, I'm a baby auditor. I'm an auditor 1 of 3 levels at my job. So I run the audit. I'm the auditor in charge, and I report to my director, and she reports to our assistant general, who reports to our general. Since I'm the only one running the audit, I have all communication with the auditee, whatever department or agency I'm auditing. And then when it comes time for the findings need to be they need to be kind of finessed, because it's like no one likes hearing their baby is ugly kind of thing. It's like, this part looks good, but that's really jacked up. Y'all are really gonna need to fix that. But you can't say it like that. And on top of it, they get defensive depending on who they are. My first audit was really, really easy, really simple, very simple fixes. They suggested the fixes, so it was really easy for me to work through that. The cybersecurity audit I'm doing right now, it's a brand new federal directive, and the agency being audited, they already don't want to share information, which for solid reasons, because of security, which I understand. But there's a federal directive, so you have no choice. So either suck it up, buttercup, but you can't say that. So it turns into, I can report the findings and be polite and professional, but for some of the finessing, I'm not there yet because I just started. I'm only a year old. Okay. And I still don't have like these other, my director and assistant general, they know these people. They've known these people for years. So they have that relationship. I don't. I just met them for this audit. So it's not like, hey, Adrian, we've known you for the audit you did 3 years ago. Welcome back. What do we need to look at this time? I'm brand new saying, hey, this sucks. Can you fix it? So I'm working on that. That's what I have to work on. So it depends, because like after the audit is over, not only do I have to talk to people about it, but then I have to write the report. The report does go to like the CEO, the president, the vice president. They get a copy. So it's not just have to talk to people. I also have to write to people, some of whom I don't even talk to at all, period, throughout the entire process. I hope that helps.
Yeah, the cool thing though, just a little thing is, and I'm sure you're going to get there because you're out of the one, is a lot of times when you do findings over and over, sometimes you can help them with mitigating controls, and then, you know, it's kind of more of a group hug. Okay, I see this finding. If you can't fix it, here's some mitigating controls. You know, if it's not a Cat 1 or something moderate, you can have different controls. So I try to soften it with what, you know, here's some compensating controls. I've seen this before. You know, I've seen on that corporate language. I've seen this before. I don't think it's a big deal. Here's your compensating controls, or we can do a risk assessment. We need to work with your management. You know, all those buzzwords and group hug type things. But too, I worked at DOD. That's ex general. They're like, either you're gonna do it or we're gonna fire you. You know, so I've worked at those awards too. So.
And I really like that FedEx hopped in here too, because he comes from the technical side. So then, could you give a little bit of input on how you've talked with like GRC aspect from the technical end? Oh, and he's gone.
He ran away. Come back.
He might have disconnected or something. That was pretty quick. That's what I was thinking, especially from the technical aspect, because I mean that gives us additional insight on like where does GRC fail on that part. But yeah, like Larry mentions here, I do project work, so all I do is talk and translate tech to non-tech for those who don't, and it's the middleman in between is really what it seems like.
Yeah, and that's why at certain levels, and I'll let Larry chime in on there, and it depends on where you're at in the GRC. You need technical skills because you start talking to the Cisco router guys and the DBA, they hate GRC people. So if you're not technically sound, they try to run over you, man. So you got to be careful with that. So that's kind of my understanding. So once again, I was a developer for a decade, so I know that application security pretty good, but they try to run you over if you're not technically sound. Where my man keep disappearing? There it is.
All right, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, it's just bad connection, but I started hearing the question, and I come from the technical side. Yes, you're absolutely right. Technically, GRC kind of runs the game, and we put the policies when we implement our infrastructure. But at the same time, there is something that I like to call is like the wages of security. You know, if you go too heavy on security, then it's actually the heavier you go in security.
Oh, bad connection.
Gotta work on his connection,
man. He was on roll.
That's all right. Did you have anything else to add to from the technical side of it, AV?
No, I agreed with PBO when he said that he comes from a developer background, and if the GRC person won't have a proper, solid, knowledge, these people will try to, dominate you. And I would kind of agree. I would kind of agree with that. Yeah.
The CTOs, because that's their baby, like Space Taco. You saying their baby that they developed for a decade is not worthy to, especially for a federal contract. So I've been seeing, well, my boss does it, but we've been in shout matches with people, man. Go ahead, A. We've been in shout matches with people. It's crazy.
No, that's all what I wanted to say. Yeah, and when you mentioned PBO, about in my age group, that's what you said, and I was laughing within myself. On me, I'm running mid 50s, so like, okay,
I'll be 57 this year. I was like, man, I'm almost 60, man. I'm trying to pass the baton to Chris and retire pretty soon, but we'll see. But yeah,
Hey, I'm almost 30.
and that's the good thing and the bad thing about it is I tell people you can jump on something and make good money, but man, trying to get certifications at 57, man, I just don't memorize like I used to. I'm like, I read that and I don't remember what I just read. 20 years ago, I could read it and just suck it in and spit it out and get it. Now I'm like, but the cool thing though is there's not many new things. So a VM is just a VM on-prem. So when I went to the cloud, it wasn't much different. I did Apache Tomcat. That's Beanstalk in AWS. I've done it. So, but I just don't memorize. Like, shout out to the Dwight. He be knocking them CIPPs out like water, man. I'd be like, whoo, I'd be struggling. But that's part of the game, though.
From the fun point of view, when I passed Security Plus in 1 week, during that week I was taking Memory Builder supplement.
Okay, maybe I need to add that to my repertoire of vitamins I'm trying to take. So I'm trying to get it together. But yeah, that's probably the only. Oh yeah, I would say that's a negative. Just technology just comes out at a blistering pace now. Like now I'm trying to get my containers, Kubernetes and Dockers hot. So I'm like, I got to get a better understanding of that. And AWS has so many services now. It's like, okay, like we talk about edge computing, EKS, Kubernetes in the service. There's just so much stuff out there. But that's the cool thing though, is it's a big domain. It's a lot of people. Once you get your experience, you can get off and running. Getting your first job though out here is brutal.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. I mean, especially on the soft skills part, we should have a whole thing just on soft skills and being that middle, translator.
Yeah, we need to. Yeah, we need a role play where I'm like the project leader of a project, and we got an app like Space Tacos was talking about. Let's kind of go through it. Like she said, here's the STIGs or the CIS. Here's the findings. I'm gonna yell at Space Taco, see how she can handle it. Now I'm just playing. But in real life though, what is that like? When you say, okay, you got this finding, I don't think your finding's legitimate, or how did you back up that finding, right? A lot of them you can scan though, but some of them, you arguing with. FedEx is back. Let him jump in before he disconnect again.
Welcome to the party, pal.
Hi, can you guys hear me now?
Crystal.
Yes.
I moved on to note yourself, don't log into the cell phone, do it on a computer, and always have a backup plan. So again, as I was saying, the portion of when it comes to the technical, yes, GRC moves, but it's a balance. So the heavier you go on the security and the GRC, the more difficult it gets for the user. But the heavier you go on the user, then it's, so you always have to find the right balance. Sometimes, yes, we do know that there are policies that we had to apply into the system, but at the same time, are those policies going to hinder us from doing the daily, day-to-day task in our job? Especially when we try to implement the new policy. One of the reasons I say that is because, when you're working with people that have been accustomed to work for years doing a specific task in a certain way, and then you say, okay, this is the new policy, then you're going to get a pushback. There is a way you had to be able to talk to the C-level and tell them the reason why you want to implement the policy, and that's going to be a C-level conversation. But when you bring it to the users, you had to, I hate the word, but you had to kind of lower the conversation standard to make it to the user understand. You had to keep it simple, Steve. Because you gotta tell them, hey, this is the reason why. And many occasions I find myself telling the users, okay, and this word for me most of the time is, listen, it's not me, it's the auditors. So I'm playing an auditor from somebody, the state auditors, and I say, this is the auditors that forcing us to do this type of stuff, and we have to be compliant. And people are more understandable and helpful to work with you when you're actually spending a good reason why. But yeah, GRC is is something else.
That's awesome, FedEx. I had one other question, guys. So I come from API and AppSec and all that background. So when someone talks about given a GRC course or GRC curriculum, when they talk about, well, there are labs in it. So I just like in my mind, like what would be the labs about, based on my background?
I can go first because I actually come from your background, and part of GRC I used to do is, and like we just talked about, is when you get CIS checks or hardening on infrastructure, the first thing usually hack is your web server. So I did the Apache, Tomcat, IIS stuff because I understood that infrastructure as a developer. Right. So that part is, so like FedEx said, we did the policies and procedures, but the other part of that is if you're doing federal work, they got hardening on different infrastructures and technology. So that's where I call it purple team. That's application security. So that's really how I got my feet wet. Once again, I did Apache, IIS, Tomcat, and we were doing Oracle databases because I was in the Fed. So I knew all that architecture like the back of my hand. And I did that stigging, which somebody said they hate stigs, and I did that at DOD. So that kind of was my foray into cybersecurity. Then my foray into GRC was I did, once again, the STIGs, the CIS, and I did all that paperwork for those particular checks. And like Space Tacos, if we couldn't put a check on, right, that's a finding, create a poem, can we fix it? Can we accept the risk? So that's kind of really how I got my feet into cybersecurity, like GRC. And I put in a link. There's a lady out there, she specializes in purple team, and that's application security. And that's really what she does. And she really has labs on it. I actually won a free course and never got to take it, but I'll put that in the chat and I'll put that in the back chat. Go ahead, FedEx, throwing it to you.
Actually, I was gonna go into the Dwayne Turner question. So, I actually believe that training is the best way to actually soften the relationships. The reason why I say that is because you had to make it humanized. You had to, especially when you implemented a policy. I mean, I came into the organization that I'm currently at, and I had to, my title got brought in as a security analyst, but given in the business, I became also the GRC guy. And so I started implementing policy, and then I started seeing the efficiencies. And, I had to be the bad guy sometimes, telling people, you can't do that. You can't, why are you doing that? Policies that are being in places for long time of periods. I mean, I'm going to give you a quick, simple example that 90% of the majority of the industries will probably fail on it. And it's you got a password policy. And then, we got, let's say 8 characters, and we do upward and down and numbers and this. And yet people still go and do capital S, summer, fall, 2024, exclamation point. Mm-hmm. And now it meets the requirements, but it's a horrible password. Mm-hmm. And so we had to train the people. And I had this conversation with management and say, I do not like your structural password, and I'm going to tell you why. And then I go into a training, one-to-one training, 10, 15 minutes, and they go, oh, you know what? I never thought about that because no one actually has sit down and talked to me like this before. No one has actually explained it to me this way. And it makes a lot of sense. And I do want to protect the company, and I do want to make sure I do right by. And I always thought it was my convenience, but I never thought about this. So taking that training, that one-to-one, it makes it more human.
Yeah, and you're talking about particularly that one-on-one, actually going to them and explaining, not necessarily like during awareness training.
Well, I mean, and everybody learns a little bit different. So part of the GRC and actually in training and awareness training is that you kind of, study shows that people does not retain long times of periods of training. So one of the first thing I did in the company is change that 40 minutes once a year mandatory training. No, we're going to do bi-monthly, and we're going to do less than 10 minutes because we need people to catch, to get their attention. So yes, you can do one-to-one. You can make a video. You can just, I mean, how many times you actually gone, the power of, what was the platform that did the 60 seconds videos? It was a platform that only did 60 seconds video for kids.
Vine? Was that Vine?
Vine. I mean, the power of Vine, it was 60 seconds, but people will get information like that. Twitter, 240 characters. Why? Because it was just a small, short, to the point, and people get the information. So sometimes you don't have to go an hour, 2 hours, 40 minutes. You just got to get to the point, get quick, get the training. And you can do gamification, you can do short videos format, you can do a newsletter, you can do a one-to-one. I mean, you had to keep innovating to actually teach people.
Yeah, but explaining to them, why, into more context than just, oh, these are the requirements, hope for the best. And that's to say that they read the policy in the first place.
Yeah, and the other thing too, from like AB's point is, I used to go to stand up from the security team to make sure the developers were comfortable with the security requirements. Some people have stories, some people have backlogs. So my job as security analyst, is where should we give them the security requirements to help them understand it, and where should we put it in so the team can get it and work those requirements as part of their normal job, right? So that's one thing that kind of helps. GRC integrates with the program and makes it easier for them.
That's great.
Hey there, Hannah. Welcome to the party, Hannah.
Hi, Hannah.
GRC rules.
GRC rules, yeah.
Oh.
For those that actually were in Simply CyberCon, you guys met Hannah, and then she saw me coming in here, and she said, "Let me go say hi." So she actually was reading her book. But education starts right here. I'm actually preparing a talk, going to her school to do a little talking about why we protect ourselves from each other, why the kids need to be protected. So that's implementing some little rules and stuff that we can start at that age. And this is where we should be doing it. We start gradually with people.
Yeah, and she also learned from you, FedEx, that if these people don't listen to you, then bring in the drone and send the drone in.
Not that kind of drone.
All right, okay. Those who were not at Simply CyberCon, what FedEx did was something cool. He brought in the drone, and that was phenomenal. So he took pictures and videos of people at Simply CyberCon, and that's why I mentioned drone.
Yeah, that's still
if you learn at Simply CyberCon, definitely try to get there next year. simplycybercon.org.
Yeah, 2025 is gonna be lit.
It's gonna be way better than you guys realize.
Yeah, B Dub's question right there.
Yep. So B-dubs, also anything extra you can do to help the people who have to implement the controls or requirements, that will win you major brownie points in regards to rapport.
The part of that is which helps me, and I need to do it more, is I've implemented most of the controls I have. So once again, I understand compensated controls. I understand what risk you can accept. I understand zero trust, so I can actually assist. And when I was younger, I used to try to force people to do stuff. I don't do that anymore. If they need my help, I can assist, right? So then I get brownie points. It's like, okay, have you done this? Or you doing this? I think this is another way. Or instead of encrypted here, you can actually use the program encryption. It's at FIP. So if you can help the team with those controls, and a lot of times too, is once again, I've been doing that forever. If you can really explain the controls, because if you look at STIGs and CIS, some of that stuff looks like you doing a math equation, right? So if you can break it down to something easier, simpler, especially if you have real examples for them. And that's one reason I like, and we go over that. If you look at the NIST 800-53 discussions and the external, they really delve into it in super detail, right? So I think that helps your understanding, then you be able to help them with their understanding. And so I think that's how you get those brownie points.
That's the part of soft skills. I mean, being able to translate this complex rules that we have, because I mean, don't get me wrong, I get lost many times on those regulations and those numbers and all those acronyms, and I had to go and Google it. Now sometimes I even had to okay, what is this acronym? Because I don't remember. But if you bring it down to the level that you can explain it to someone to make it understandable, sometimes you make it to the level of a third grade or fourth grade year old. An adult will understand it, and not that you want to treat them like kids, but you want to bring it down to the level that they will understand it, that they will make sense to them, because people are more willing to work with the implementation, help you to implement it, as long as they are actually Yeah, as long as you bring it to the implementation. If you go with a ruler and you are a rule streaker, people don't like to be told what to do. People like to do what they want to do. So it's how you convert your narrative in a way that they think that they're the ones giving you, telling you what to do.
And I'll say on the other side of that is my team can recommend ways that they can help mitigate the issues. But one is I'm not even allowed to implement because that's not our job. We hand that over to the actual compliance arm of the team. We've got an entire compliance department that they help them do that. And then also is it helps if they actually do come up with the fix instead of us saying, well, we recommend you do this. It's a lot better and much more effective when they literally come up with their own fix.
Because they own the fix, right? That's
it's
their
baby. You fix your own baby.
We don't own it, so that's one reason I stopped doing it. Because when I start architecture stuff, then I own it, right? So, so that's one reason I learned that quickly. So I don't want to own it. They own it. My job is to assist them.
Yeah, and the fact that you bring up conflict resolution, I mean, that is, that's a really good topic to bring up into that discussion as well.
It is.
So especially when you're talking about, having those conflicts and so forth, because that's an entire section of it altogether. No, PBO?
You're right.
You're shaking your head.
The reason I snake my head, that's why I do federal work. The IRS says X. There's no conflict. Either we doing it or not. So that, I mean, now you can have some conversation on mitigation control, but since we're forced to do it by the government, that takes a lot of the conflict out. Because I was like, it's like FedEx said, it's not me. We can run it up the chain, man. It's the IRS. It's not my requirement. My job is to help you do it, right? So that, for me, that cuts out a lot of the conflict.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly the truth. I mean, sometimes you gotta implement those rules not because you want to, because you have to. I mean, I just came back from a business trip where we were actually testing our business continuity plan. And in this business continuity plan, what I was actually went outside the state to test is actually a company that when we activate it in 48 hours, they come and put a trailer. It's a double wide trailer. They come with gas. And, they actually, and this is worst case scenario. This is, we lost all the equipment or the users cannot get to their computers or anything. They're gonna come. They're gonna put a double wider. They're gonna put computers. They're gonna put a server. They're gonna put all the stuff. They're gonna put a satellite connection, and we get to configure it, test it, and then run it. So that's what I was doing this week alone, and went and tested out. Happened that we were doing we were actually getting a state of Florida inspection recently, or an audit, and the auditors asked us for our business continuity plan. And we were like, well, we really don't have one fully completed, but here's what we already started working on it. We were already writing into it, and they accepted that and say, okay, when was the last time you guys did this test? And we were like, we haven't done it in 7 years, but we have a schedule for 2 months from now. And they're like, okay, so you guys are on the right track. But this is the first time that they ask us for that. And all the audits, this is the first time that the state of Florida asked us for a business continuity plan. And we knew we had to do it. We were working on the process of doing it. And so we were not fully implemented, but we were somewhere working on it. So we didn't get completely ding on that.
But it's good that you had something ready, though.
Yeah, it kind of saved us that we were working on it.
Yeah, but that part from continuous monitoring, though, right? In our checklist, it says continuous plan. If we don't have the plan, like he said, is we have a poem when we're going to get it done. So the auditors like to say, okay, you don't have it done, but at least you have it scheduled to be done. And since he had the template, right? So that's kind of things as a senior auditor. If you don't have a plan, that's a cat 1. If you got a partial plan, that could be 3. Okay, they got it. They got it started. We see them progressing. Okay, they got a poem. Okay, we can check that out. And when we come back in a year, you need to have it done, right? So as far as your documentation, your security program, right? That's part of how you get that configured and the stuff you need in there. Because money's not infinite too, so they kind of understand it. hey, you got to pick your resources where you need them too. So,
Yep.
So, and one of the main reasons why I was saying that I like the fact of bringing up conflict resolution is not necessarily to change their mind or otherwise. Well, I guess it really does come to changing their mind, because like that comes in on communicating it in a different manner that they come to it, I guess, your side of the table on.
I just
That's
run it
still
up
like
the
a type of
chain.
conflict resolution.
I just run it
Yeah,
up
well,
the chain
you're
anymore. I'm
gut-
grumpy. I'm grumpy.
You're
I'm like,
also
dude.
DOD.
Yeah, I'm here, man. If you don't want to do it, let the CISO decide, man. I'm not arguing with
Yeah.
you, man. I mean, when I was
True,
young, I'd be
true.
probably like, dude, I'm here to help you, And I tell them too. I tell people, I want you to understand where I'm coming from. I'm about to run this up to the CISO, and he's gonna come and see you. So I don't want there to be any confusion. I'm not trying to talk to behind your back. I want to make sure all the cards up. So I can help you now. I can help you later. Just let me know, man. PBO's here for you. Just let me know, man. So
Yeah, let's just get this in writing first.
Yeah, so I tell people, man, I'm not talking behind your back. I'm letting you know. I'm gonna talk to the CISO, and he's gonna come and see you, right? So hey, so then people become more open. Let's see what you got, right? So that's how I ain't trying to conflict resolution. I ain't talking too much. So.
I mentioned the conflict resolution simply because there's a young lady who sits next to me who's very good at her job. She's been there a year longer than I have, but somehow she seems to keep getting these audits where the auditee doesn't like the findings, doesn't want to take responsibility for the findings, doesn't want to be responsible for the mitigation of what was found, and so on and so forth and so on. And so in the overhearing of being in an open cubicle area, I hear her on these Teams calls saying, but the hazardous waste regulations say this, and you guys are only doing this, or the construction contract says this, and you guys did it this way. And so the thing is with us is that, they've got to accept responsibility. And like, I like your job. Your job sounds great. So I'm coming for you in about another 6 months. I'm coming that direction. But she's just been dealing with a lot of these pushback. I mean, like really bad pushback sometimes. So
for me, that's poor management, right? For me, when I do a lot of audit times is my manager or the CISO or the compliance director tells that team, we're going to meet. This is what we're doing. This is why we have to do it. This is costing us money, or we can't get this dig, or we're going to lose this government contract. So everybody understands why we're doing it. So to me, if it seems like you're getting those questions, they're not communicating to those teams why we doing it and the importance of doing it. Right. So for me, that's a management issue. But once again, I'm old and grumpy. So I'd be like, hey, management, why am I arguing? That's a management task. Now, sometimes, once again, I can help them. Like FedEx said, I can go in. Let me help you. I don't want to report you to the CISO. We're going to lose this contract. We all going to get fired. Right. I can use the buzzwords. But for me, a lot of times and I learned this from IRS, we're going to have a kickoff meeting so everybody understands this is the page. Everybody understands what we're doing on the kickoff, right? This is what we're doing. This is your manager talking. The CISO's talking to your direct manager, who will get a grade on his performance review of how this is going to go, right? So then he's going to make sure his team's on point. So if you're not doing that right, So I'm like I said, I'm old and grumpy. Let's do the kickoff meeting. Let's make sure everybody understands why we're doing it. Let's make sure we got some resources, some roles and responsibilities, right? So,
Oh, and we do the kickoff. We do the walkthroughs and explain your process to us. And then we compare them to whatever controls and regulations we find. And yet this poor child still gets groups from these agencies that are like, that's not my responsibility. And so she ends up, and our director is, side by side with her. And if they continue to push back, then God bless them, our assistant general comes in. And you don't really want to mess with my assistant general because she'll, like they say, she'll snatch your wig. So they have to end up dealing with her.
I think
that should go before we even start, though. We should be snatching wigs, so we don't have to go here, right? All those wigs should be snatched before we even start, right?
And then part of it is also, like I said, since I'm so new, and her too, because she's 2 years, I'm only 1. That's part of that. I've been here 12 years, 15 years, 20 years. I know these people, or I know this department, and I know this person before he advanced to this job. So sometimes the assistant general and the director can get in there and do a little wig snatching just to let them know, hey, this is what we're going to do.
I should do that in kickoff meeting.
You're not going to tell us what we can, because we've had people, you can't have access. Yes, we can. We've got access to whatever we want to get this audit done. So sometimes they do that, but then sometimes she finds that these people come at her on the back end when they say
they're gonna try you. They're gonna try you.
Oh no, they do. They totally do. And it's been for her this whole time, and I just feel bad for her because she's so
what
great.
she needs to do is what I do, and depending on a lot of times I can feel the room is I'm punching somebody in the throat right off the bat. So let you know I'm not playing. So I'm finding it's a cat one.
Punch.
Yeah, right. I'm finding the cat one. We're gonna shut down the project. We all gonna get fired. I'm gonna blow it up. I'm gonna call the CISO, make him come down. I'm telling him, I need you to come down here this morning because I'm about to show out. Then everybody eyes get big, right? Then everybody's on page. Then I only need to do that once, right? Now he's got the CISO, because when the CISO comes down for me, everybody knows. Okay, he has the CISO's backing or the general's backing. Because I can get a feel from the room. I'm like, okay, these people ain't taking me seriously, so I need to get people's attention. So as we say in DOD is, I'm setting tone. So I'm not playing. I got stuff to do. All right, go ahead, Space. I like to set that tone.
That's what our usually if we can handle it, the auditor in charge, it tends to be pleasant.
Oh, thanks.
And if it gets a little contentious, then our director, who's a bit more direct, which is kind of funny, not a pun though, but she's able to weave through the language and make sure that they understand that we're not playing and this is on you, and there's no one else in line to be in charge for this. This is all you. And if they don't want to listen to her, like I said, here comes our assistant general, who is like a pit bull, like a frothing Rottweiler, who will just come at you. And I mean, she has meetings half the time. I'm only a door and a half away from her. She has meetings half the time where like the whole floor can hear her shouting. And it's not that she wants to, it's just these people, they push back because they don't want to, and the thing is we don't only deal with the CISO. We deal with literally everyone. We deal with a whole.
I deal the whole gamut. I deal from junior programmers all the way up to the CISO. But I need some, and like I said, now people know me, so I don't have a problem. When I was at deal, because people know me, right? I didn't have to, but I know coming from a big fortune, you got to set tone. So
that's my assistant general. She's the tone setter.
So I'm setting tone. I'm the senior guy. I'm not playing with you. I got
She overheard one of my meetings where someone had asked a question, and it wasn't rude that I could tell, but then she heard my answer and she immediately hopped in the call. She was like, "Look, I heard him ask that question. I was gonna be there if he said something sideways." I was like, "Well, thank you."
And and I think that's one of the biggest issues that you got as coming. I mean, if you're an external auditor, they might see you differently. But if you're actually a GRC in the company and work for that company, and you just, you're the brand new guy, you're the guy that just came out on the position. When you're dealing with people that have been there 20, 25, 30, even 40 years, because I got people that have been 47 years in the company, they might see you a little bit different, but you had to set that, this is a life, this is a friendship, and this is business. And I'm in business mode. And in business mode, this is how we act out, and this is how we do it. Yeah. Because there's no room for failure in this. As I always say that in security, in security and in network, we had to be 100% of the times always right. The threat actor only needs to be one time right to get into our system. That's the same way the GRC does it. GRC comes and say, we had to make sure that we are applying our policies to the maximum of our capabilities, because the data we fill in one policy, that's how we actually going to probably lose the company, or that's how we're going to get into a big lawsuit, or this is how we're going to actually fail in X and Y and Z.
Exactly.
We put ourselves at a risk when we're not doing our due diligences. And when people actually push back, we need to push back a little bit further. We got to tell them, I'm sorry. I understand that. Be charismatic to the person. I mean, don't be also the strict ruler and, I'm here and I got the power. No, but be charismatic and say, yes, I'm sorry. I understand that this is more complicated for you, that you've been doing it X, Y, and Z, but here's the reason why I need you to do it this way. And if this doesn't happen this way, here's the consequences that could happen to the company or to you. Make it personal to them. I mean, hey, listen, you can lose your job. People don't like that.
Yeah, I think all of that really comes down to the soft skill aspect within the GRC, because you need to handle those kind of situations. I mean, maybe not so much in PBO's background. However, yeah, still maintaining those relations. But I do want to point out Rhonda's comment on there. That's how I am at work. They know I'm not playing. I have met her and everything else, and I 100% agree with this.
Exactly, Rhonda.
That is not true. She's right, but Space Taco tell you people gonna try you, man. Especially at military people, man. They gonna try you, man. Especially if they've been there for forever.
Mm-hmm. And that's when you're playing with those egos. That's when you're not on at that moment. You're not talking to the person. You're talking to the ego. Their ego. This is who I am. This is my position. This is my ego. This is you're an unsubordinate. You're just a pencil pusher or so and so what. And yes, I might be just a pencil pusher, but this pencil pusher is looking out for your safety, for the company's safety, and for everybody's safety. And if you don't do it, guess what? It's your job on the line. Because I'm still gonna be the pencil pusher that told you I'm gonna cover all my bag. I'm gonna actually have all my roles and the dots and put it in there.
Yeah.
This has been done this way and put it this way. And I escalated, that's also when, especially in military, there's always a chain of command. So if the first level doesn't hear, then you start escalating. And I always say it, and I will always repeat it. Once in writing, it stays in writing. I'm not the person to actually go and tell. I mean, there might be occasions where I tell you over the phone, but the majority of the time I'm putting it in writing, and not because I'm trying to be a snitch, but because I'm trying to cover myself.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to make sure that I'm doing my job properly to where they come and say something failed, and I say, sorry, here's my
absolutely.
On this day, there's my record. If it wasn't done, it was not because I failed, it was because they failed.
That's the same rule in healthcare. And the other thing for me is I have a background in teaching. So I'm used to, not the military, but just regular kids, they like to push boundaries. If anyone here has kids, and those of you who do, they're going to push until you push back. So I'm used to that too.
Yeah. Now, AB has a great question in there about the progression on careers in GRC. Yes. And I think the answer is going to go, ultimately, you are an auditor. Ultimately, in GRC, I see you as an auditor, somebody that actually is there to help implement the rules and make sure that the regulations are in place. Again, governance, risk compliance, GRC. How high can you go on the ladder? It all depends on the organization. Yeah. Because, my title in one organization is security analyst, but in another organization, I was director of IT. In another organization, I'll probably be senior engineer. So, they can call in space organization, she is an auditor 1. So they might have auditor 2, auditor 3. That's exactly what we just say. In your organization, you had that. But in PBO organization, they might just have GRC auditor, and that's the title. And he could be one GRC auditor that has 1 month, 2 months, or someone that has 10 years, and they probably are at the same level because of the title. That doesn't mean that one might not be more senior than the other one, or X and Y, Z, but it's going to go depends on the organization and the structure of the organization.
And I think that's what makes it very confusing as well, because the same titles could have completely different job duties.
Yeah.
There's there's nothing across the industry for it.
If you look at the job description, it's usually about how many years, right? You could be one auditor, but they might ask for 10 years or 3 years, right? So you could be an auditor, but if they're asking for 10, right? Theoretically, you're a senior auditor, even though they call you auditor.
So now, if you're getting into the GRC side of things, let's say you become like an auditor, what would be some of the next steps? Then you would be looking at like senior auditor, and then maybe you would be like a manager of sorts for the team or otherwise, that type of progression. Do you guys have any input on that?
For me, you just said it. The bigger orgs, I'll go first in Space Taco can go, because I think our org is big. I worked at companies that had our GRC team was 10, and I worked on where it was 3 people, right? So if you're working for a Fortune 500 company, right, you have the standard, like Space Taco said, 1, 2, and 3. You might have a supervisor, manager. Then I reported to the compliance director, dotted line to the CISO if you work. Then I worked with, it was me and another guy. We did the whole thing, right? So I just think it depends. Like FedEx said, the size of your org, I think goes to that. Chime in on that, Space Taco. I think you got the bigger org.
Wait, I forgot what was I going to say.
What's the progression of corporate ladder view, kind of your org?
Oh, sorry. We have 3 levels of auditors. After that, in my organization, it goes from auditor to this most senior level. Then if you want to progress into director, so you have your own team of auditors. And then you can move into assistant general, but I don't know. That's a whole nother story. Anyway, then to assistant general. And then if you want into general, auditor general, or you could slide onto the compliance team. Or there's a few specifically GRC specific or risk roles within the cybersecurity team, which is a completely different department. So there's a couple different paths that we can take at my current organization. It just kind of depends. I'm really trying to jump into the cybersecurity team, but at right now I'm just I'm not there yet. So
don't do it. I'm kidding.
They've got a couple risk management jobs, like third party vendor risk management compliance.
Okay.
I'm like,
I can see that being a auditor GRC and still be in the blue team in the blue teamer. Because so let's just talking about the size of organizations. Let's go myself.
Mm-hmm.
I am the GRC. I am also the SOC analyst. I am also the red teamer. I am also the blue teamer. And from time to time, I'm also the guy who answers the calls and say, "Have you turned on and turned off your PC?" Even though we have almost 10% of my organization is IT.
Wow.
So we have my organization is 150, 160 employees, and 11 of us are actually in the IT department. But yes, I'm also the guy who does GRC. I'm also the guy who does blue team. So my title, probably I will never grow out of my title. I'm still going to be a security analyst.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm able to convince my boss to give me the senior and maybe give me more money, maybe. But other than that, there's no grow up for me in my organization. However, because of the size of the organization and the business that we do, and we do have a lot of business. I mean, we move a lot. I mean, it's just huge. Even though personal wise is small, the company is huge. And so that being said, I am constantly busy. I am constantly worrying about certain things. So we are constantly evolving. We're constantly working with auditors, the state auditors, industry auditors, doing new vendors, bringing new vendors, analyzing the vendors, making sure that all this type of compliance. At the same time, we're working with external vendors that are helping us to do red teaming, pen testing, and then we're making sure that our blue team is right. So I'm always busy. Do I have a night? Yes, I do have a better night sometimes. Why? Because I also been able to engage MTDR teams, basically people that when I'm not at work, they do the job for me. They're my second eyes in the sky. We had companies that we engaged into having my back, because I'm only one person, and I also need to go home and enjoy my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also, so like AB here asked about the red teamer work life compared to like blue teamer, for an example. Tyler Ramsby had discussed this previously, and he actually stated this is why he didn't go blue team.
Yeah.
Because as a red teamer, he just goes to work, he does his job, and he goes home. It is almost never does he get called in or anything else. Yeah, that's where the whole work-life part comes in. I think he's been doing it for like 3 or 4 years now, and he said that he's been called like twice outside of his work hours.
Mm-hmm.
So, whereas blue teamers work every holiday.
I don't know that I haven't personally heard of a policy emergency. I mean, if they have an incident, like there's a disaster or there's some massive breach, they'll have to maybe look at policies and procedures on file, but they are on the intranet, like our in-house, go look it up on the website and you'll find it. And you don't need to call me at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm having funky dreams about craziness because I had corned beef and, you know, whatever. But no, I don't. I get to go home and chill, man. I come talk to you people.
So you see the difference. You guys are actually get that. When it comes to my GRC, I'm not worried about that. Those projects normally can wait.
Yeah.
But quick example is 3 a.m. in the morning this morning. They were attacking my system, and I get those alerts because I'm part of this. I get the alerts of the SOC analyst. Now, did I wake up at that time? No. Why? Because I have an NDDR for people that actually got my back when I'm sleeping. But if it gets to the point that they need to wake me up, the first person they're gonna call is me. You know. So yes, I do. I can get wake up at 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. or when CrowdStrike happened. You know, when I wake up that morning, the first call, I start looking at me and I say, "Oh boy!" And I happen to have that day off. I actually happened to have that day off. I was doing family plans, and I purposely say, "I'm not taking my laptop with me." I went with my family. I did my plans. My phone rang the whole day. I did answer calls, and then when I got back into the house, I ended up having to go back to work. But you know, it's. Yes, you don't have a life when you work on a SOC.
I've never worked on a SOC.
Unless it's a team, you know, unless you are in a big team and they shift and, you know, SOC, big corporations will have actually SOC teams and they have shifts and they manage 24/7.
Yeah. A lot of people doing the SOC as a service now. The only issue I have with that red team is you either outsourcing it or most companies don't have a red team. If we got a red team, we had a third-party vendor we would call in to look at that. So I always tell y'all chime in. Red team is so specialized. I just don't see that a lot in work. Like either we had SOC as a service, so they would do that for us, or a lot of times our red team we would do a internal penetration every 3 years. That's a NIST requirement. So we didn't have a ton of red.
The 53. The 53 requirement is every 3 years?
For a pen test.
Oh, wow.
Now we do our internal pen test, but for a third party pen test, I need to check it. It was every 3 years.
I'm doing pen tests externally yearly, and now the internally has become almost as well yearly.
Well, I think let me take that back. I think we were doing a pen test, but it was an internal pen test. We had to pay a third party and actually give them some low-level passwords and put them inside our network every 3 years, right, to do a big-time red team pen test. So,
I know we have red teamers, and I know they don't like to show their face because they do physical pen tests. So, but I have no knowledge of any of their anything.
So, oh, that's the PCI one. I was trying to find it here. So, like PCI requires an internal pen test every 12 months.
Well, what's the external one though? We had to hire somebody externally every 3 years. I need to check that. I
had to do externally every year, and like I say, now internally is becoming a yearly thing. So
yeah,
I was actually having meetings this morning about our black box pen test that just happened recently, and you know,
I dropped it in chat. So
yeah, PCI is every 12 months for internal and external. I was looking at the 53 here on my Trello board to see if it had a time requirement, but it doesn't appear to. At least on the 53, I don't see a time.
Let me double check it. I haven't looked at it in probably 5 years. I need to be close.
I think they would probably leave that open for the organization to decide, at least on like the 53.
Now I'm gonna put the IRS in the chat. That might be too big to put. I'm gonna see if I can put the IRS in the chat. The IRS still says every 3 years because I do most of the IRS stuff, so I want to make sure I'm quoting.
Yeah, it looks like the 53 leaves it up to the organization to decide. It does state internal, external.
Yeah, but the organization I do is the IRS. Ooh, that's too long. Let me take half of it out.
Now I know there's someone in the green room in AB that actually asked about the recent college graduates to get into GRC. And AB, I think I think you can. I think you actually can get into GRC like a really level 1 auditor, but you need to understand a little bit and more like an assistant. I think the way for someone that is coming as recently coming out of the school to get into GRC is probably doing internships and then pivoting from an internship, because you need to get that experience. And so if someone is serious about getting into GRC and a company is offering an internship, that is a perfect way in. Because yes, you do need to know a little bit about what you're doing. I mean, I myself is still learning every day.
All right, so I'll see that, and I'll raise you. I got in at 100,000 years old with 0 tech experience.
I don't think it's a tech experience, but you actually went through the GRC master program, so
that is true.
Actually, so you had that experience in the GRC master programs. Yes, you're absolutely right. You were hired 0 experience, but you were not hired level 2, level 3. You were hired.
Got hired as a baby.
As a baby, like you stated, and you went through the program. You actually, I think you're one of the only ones that I know, and maybe there's might be more people. I mean, Chris might know, but that actually has gone through the GRC master program from Jerry's, and actually were able to get a job out of that.
I know there's a few of us, but yeah, mine's a bit of a fluke. It happened pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, a lot of companies request, a college degree or otherwise, but I don't see that it's a requirement whatsoever. It's whether or not you can do the job is what it appears to be. And I know plenty of people who have no degrees and they have plenty of experience, or even newer, with only a couple of years of experience, and they still broke in otherwise. Most of the people I've talked to, though, they pivoted into it from another role. Like they were in accounting and then they pivoted into a GRC risk role, or they were IT help desk and then they pivoted into it. I haven't talked to many people who went straight into GRC with no industry experience.
Now, when you say degree, do you mean IT cybersecurity degree, or just degree to anything?
I would say degree, right? I mean, you look at it, many companies actually tell you right now you need a bachelor's, but they don't. Well, it's preferable to have if you're going for an IT job, but having an IT background or an IT degree. They're literally just asking for somebody that has an actual some type of bachelor's. Like again, having some experience in the field doesn't hurt, and it helps you to pivot it into what you want to do.
Absolutely.
But I myself got into IT and 0 certification, 0. It's cool. And while in IT, while in the business, I actually went and got my degree. So now I got a bachelor's, but I've still got 0 certifications. And I got into GRC because I got forced. I got forced into GRC.
I'm real happy about
it. Go ahead.
I'm gonna say a couple of things. Like, so just the nature of the beast of being an IT. GRC, or some aspect of GRC, I'm talking about my experience. GRC is involved in some capacity in really all realms of IT as a whole, and especially cybersecurity. I mean, I even going back look at when I first got my SOC job, we had to understand processes and procedures, and we had to understand those. I didn't realize it was GRC at the time. I thought it was just, hey, this is what you have to do to ensure that, cover your butt. But also going through like the different the basic security certificates that I took. There's always aspects of, and we were talking about scanning. How often do we need to scan? What regulations require those types of scannings, or how often? Sorry, I got to charge my headset. So I don't know where I was going with that. It's GRC is involved in some capacity, no matter what you're in an IT.
GRC GRC is the background of everything. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
if you are a system administrator that comes on the old school system administrator on IT, and you implemented MFA, what are you really doing is actually a GRC policy
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
procedures for access. If you actually are securing Azure and you actually doing conditional access, now you actually doing a GRC policy on risk and conditional access. That is a governance policy. So
Yeah.
GRC, whether we don't see it, it is indeed. It's like when I was in high school and the teacher say, "Well, you always use algebra for X, Y, and Z," and now I'm like, "Nah, I will never use this thing in life." And at some point in life, we realize, you know what? Maybe it's not n's and y's and z and plus one or whatever, but it is some math that we're using in life. That's the same thing that happened with you. That's the way I see GRC. GRC is hidden in every single aspect of any company.
And to answer AB's question real quick, I was just going to throw this out there, is that yes, I think that they can break into GRC if they, what was it, if certain knowledge, like if they study certain knowledge, as far as I think of the CISM. One of my buddies' coworkers was actually studying for the CISM, and he'd throw out questions in our team chat throughout the day. And I'm like, well, I saw that. I mean, this is the answer. And I think, and I'm not bragging, but I think out of the 15 or 20 that he asked, I think I missed one. It was literally just from studying certificates over time. And I'm not saying it's like minimize. I don't want to minimize the knowledge that people in GRC need to have. But I'm saying I think it's possible. And I think you guys already hit that. It's possible. You have the motivation, you have the knowledge, and you have the drive to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the key thing is being capable of doing the position itself. And then I just pulled up this the objectives for the Sec Plus 701 because I was absolutely amazed. I didn't realize this at the time until more recently. But like the Sec Plus is an entry-level certification, very well known in the industry, of course. And I was just dumbfounded by how in depth they've integrated GRC into a lot of this stuff. So they had some of this in the 601, but they added a lot more, and there's a lot more GRC that's involved. You know, they have risk identification, different types of risk analysis, like probability, risk management strategies. There's an entire way more in depth. And the reason I believe this is because over the next 5 or 10 years, a lot more technical roles are going to be more on the GRC side than we realize now. Because it already kind of is to an extent that they know that, oh, these people need to understand what risk is so we could keep the business running.
And if you look at it, what you just said, you know, right now with the growth of AI, a lot of the jobs are going to be a lot of the jobs are becoming automated. We write scripts and batches to automate our daily life. I mean, I love having something that automate my life, but at the same time, it's they're going to need somebody that write that policy that control those batches and control those risks and look at all this stuff. So that's GRC right there. And in an essence, there's nothing wrong with automatization. It's just how do you apply that automatization and how you make it secure. So then again, back shadow right there is GRC telling you, hey, remember, I don't have a problem. So you're creating this batch, but I need you to make sure that you create this batch this way or it complies to this kind of compliance or make sure that your script doesn't collect informational data that shouldn't be collected. Or, you know, we found that many times in developers that they actually fell in policies because they're hard-coded APIs or they're hard-coded passwords into their procedure because they're not actually implementing a good GRC policy. They're not looking at the risk. They're just trying to get the actual tool out the door, and they don't have a GRC person telling you, hey, but you know what? I see something wrong on your code, or you should be careful of this, or we should be complying with this.
And I'll just add real quick. I do need to drop, but I'll add with that, like the policies and the basic knowledge that you gain from this can be from like a test like that or from GRC can be applied to any discipline in cybersecurity. Can be applied to any mitigations, controls, to technologies, whatever they are. And I kind of feel as you were looking at them, that's my thought, is like they're pushing people to understand the risk and compliance as opposed to the actual technical hands-on part of how to search for something in command line like they used to, or subnets. I think they may still teach subnets, but I'm just saying, like, if you can understand those concepts, you can take that knowledge to any position you go to. So, but thank you. I need to drop.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah, thanks
I really
for joining.
Appreciate it. I appreciate you being involving me. You guys have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yep. I'll see you later.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got to make a video about it. So like in the resources section on the Study GRC Discord, I have a whole section there that also talks about that too, on the fact that you could study for something without actually taking the exam. Because too many people get involved with that. Like, oh, I might as well pay the $600 for this certification, but it's the knowledge that's really useful. Like one of the things I want to do is I want to go through and study that CISSP, but I have no intention on ever taking it, especially at this point in time.
And that's one thing that even DJ Bisek said, and we hear it many times in the Joel Jackin is, you know, it's the knowledge. I gotta tell you, and this is personal experience. I took the CISSP class on 2018. I passed it with honors. I have my book and everything, but never went and took the test back then. And then I realized how much it was going to cost me. And I was like, no, because I don't need it right now. And so when I went on 2021 to get this job, talking to a hiring manager, he's almost told me, well, we would like to have a CISSP person. And I was like, look, man, I know the CISSP. I got the knowledge. I took the class. I got the book. I understand it. I just never gone for the test. And I know that not going for the test might actually pay me a little bit less than if I had the certification, but I didn't have it at the time. And the guy say, you know what? Anybody that came here for the CISSP wanted over 6 figures for that job. I know we as a company, we cannot pay somebody over 6 figures right now, but we would love to bring you in because of your knowledge. Mm-hmm. And so one thing that we agree upon, it was we're doing all this stuff, and now they actually gonna pay for my CISSP. If they're gonna pay, I'll take it. But I'm telling you, one of those things is a lot of those certifications cost a lot of money, and many certifications as well. CISSP being one of them. Mm-hmm. Now you become a slave of paying yearly dues. Yep. Now you have to maintain your certificate. I mean, I can't get my CEUs because I go to a lot of other stuff. So CEUs it's never going to be an issue, but you had to now pay all these dues. So then you go to CompTIA, you got to pay to CompTIA. You go to the IC Squared, you got to pay to IC Squared. You get to the other one, you got to pay to this. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, it's the knowledge what you need. The certification is nice to get to get through the HR paywall, you know, because it's like CISSP is an HR honey. I always say it. HR love to see that in your resume. Yeah. But sometimes they're not willing to even pay you for those efforts.
Yeah, but
and I mean that's my big thing is get a company to pay for it, and the membership thing is another thing for me. So
men said he's backstage, Chris. Let men in. Yeah, the thing that my only little disagreement with FedEx is for senior jobs, especially remote jobs. If you don't have the CISP, you can't make it to the next round of interviews. Mm-mm. Right? I got lucky. I talked to a recruiter. They said because I had so much years, she let me go back and put me in the second round of interviews. But which I understand, I got 400 people applying for remote jobs now. So you got to cut them off somehow. So they're using which I think is crazy. They're using the CISSP for that. So that's my only slight pushback on that.
Yeah, but keep in mind, CISSP is not even a technical certification. It's a managerial certification.
I'm not disagreeing with you. And I agree. I have CISSP calling me, asking me questions, but you know, HR don't care. That's just their benchmark, and that's what they're looking for. I'm not disagreeing.
That's the unfortunate certification industrial complex that we find ourselves into in this day and age.
I love that term.
Yeah. Who is that? Granham Helton is the one who, I believe, coined that term. The certification industrial complex. He has an amazing article for it. He presented it during the Snake Oil Summit with Anti-Siphon. Amazing. I've dropped that link multiple times, and I'll drop it again. But yeah, that's just the unfortunate aspect. Like, I'm sure, like, having the CISSP, even if you don't have the years of experience, you could still get the associate level for it, so you could still slap it on your resume. But like, my thing is like, also my concern is like the membership aspect, because I have a hard enough time getting the value out of IAPP, and I sack it as is. I don't really want to add anybody else on. That's my main thing with like ISC squared, is they're not really GRC.
The CISP,
and that's my thing. It's like the great dilemma where we had cable. So, we had cable and we were paying X amount of money for cable, and now we're gonna cut cable because now it's Netflix. But then you add Netflix, then you add Hulu, then you add
Disney.
And next thing you know, you're paying the same amount of money that you were paying for
HBO.
for the cable. So it's the same thing with all the certifications. You add one certification, you add the other one, you add this one, and then all of a sudden you start paying all this. Now, I don't disagree with PBO when he said that, yes, sometimes in corporate, especially in corporate, to move upward, so you do need that certificate. You do need sometimes some certifications. You do need some level of studies or such. Hence the reason why I started in IT, and then I went and got a degree, and then I went and get a bachelor's. So I got my associates, and finished with my associates. I went and got my bachelor's, and now I'm actually considering might be going for my master's, because yes, if you do want to, I know someone that, because he doesn't have an actual bachelor's, he is topped out. And he makes over 6 figures, but he's topped out at his position and cannot move forward because he does not have a bachelor's.
Facts.
Wow.
I do have a master's. Shout out to PBO. I have a master's.
You're a professor.
Rhonda, I put the Splunk stuff in there, Rhonda, but that's the one reason I got a master's, because at DOD, when you start, shout out to Larry, when you start doing those government grades, a lot of times you're in competition with people. Right, especially when you're doing a DOD, it's probably 100 people trying to get those jobs, man. When you go up, so you got to kind of differentiate yourself in there. So, and I think it's a boomer trap. I think those guys got them, so they really want you to have them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's part of that boomer trap. But PBO got the bachelors, the masters, and I got AWS cert. Shout out to me and Dwight for the CIA. Shout out, man.
Yo, if I take my 2 bachelor's degrees and rub them together, you think that'll count as a master's?
Nah.
What if I add on my 2 associate's degrees?
Nah, just go and get the masters. You got time.
I
don't think FedEx said it. There's a cap on any salary, but I think the bigger companies you work for, obviously they're more stuff. And the one thing I wish I would have done that I kind of backed out, and I wouldn't say scared, I just left a bad taste in my mouth, is I should have went for a director and a management track. Because if I was director now, I could hire some people, right? You could hire your team, but I had a couple bad teams that just left a bad taste in my mouth, so I didn't want that bad thing.
And I really want to premise this.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that, like, a really important thing here too is that the people getting paid the big bucks are typically the people who really save the company a lot of money, who are experienced senior people. So as there are positions in GRC that are making hundreds of thousands, I mean, that's not going to make up a very large percentage.
I frown up. I'm gonna let Space Tacos chime in on that.
All I know is I get, I'm
gonna go first, Space Taco.
Go.
I see a lot of managers who I don't think technically sound. They got big budgets and they got big teams and they got big departments. They're practice managers. They come and say like 6 words, but they get paid like $600 an hour from Booz Allen. So I think when you got teams and people report to you a lot of times, I think those people get paid. Chime in on that.
Yeah, but starting out. But not starting. Yeah.
Also keep in mind sometimes sometimes the higher you go, the less work you do and the more managerial stuff you do, because now you're dealing with people. Now you're actually becoming a high-paid babysitter sometimes.
Right. He's right, but those guys make a ton of money. But the other part too is I do a little less work. Not my current job, but one of my jobs is I did less work. But if I mess up, it's a huge mess up, man. Somebody put in there, we could be failing GDPR findings. We could get a big fine. I could drop the ball and we not get an ATO, an authority to operate. So you do less work, but the magnifications of you messing up can be huge. Go ahead. I will let somebody else chime in on that.
Yeah, go ahead, Space Tacos.
No, I posted in the chat that I had seen a GRC job in the music industry, and it's here in New York City, and it's actually $350 a year, and which floored me. I was like, hold on, read the job description. What are you doing? So, I mean, they exist, but like, it's not typical, and you're definitely going to be a high-priced babysitter, and you're going to spend all of your time in meetings, and it's all red tape and bureaucracy and politics and all. You're not doing the things. You're doing you're managing that department. You're managing that area. So you're, hiring, firing, delegating. You're in your office having meetings all day.
And you rainmaking a lot too, meaning you going to get business and you keeping business. The other part, what Space Taco said, and I tell people that, and I failed, is I had an AWS interview for compliance, but somehow I got switched over to the engineering track. But I think it was for like $345. They said, "You still want to interview?" I go, "Why, yes, I do." but it was crazy. It was a 6-hour interview, but they're laying off right now. But those AWS, Google, Azure, they pay crazy amount of money. My stock options every year was 95 or 85,000 in restricted stock options every year. The pay package was crazy.
I'm sorry, did you just say a 6-hour interview? Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah, it's called the Loop. Google it. Do AWS Loop while we talking, and and they break it down to teams. So you interview with 3 team members every hour. Then I interview with the practice manager. Usually it's 5 hours, but somehow my HR got moved. So yeah, it was a 6-hour interview. It almost killed me. It physically about to kill me. It's called a Loop. You'll see a lot of.
But did you get the job?
No. If I was here, if I made $350, I wouldn't even want to see Dwight no more. I wouldn't even be here. I wouldn't be here no more. I'd have been an L5 or something. Yeah, Chris brought up that Loop was brutal.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Amazon Loop interview will feature 2 to 9 interviewers that will loop you through. Throughout the interview, they will assess whether you can raise the bar for Amazon's employees, the Amazon principle, and succeed.
The cool thing, though, is I failed, but I learned so much because I had to do the STAR technique. I was new to that. I'm sure Dwight knows what that is. I was old. I didn't know about the STAR. I didn't have any metrics on my compliance, so I was making up stuff. Yeah, I cut down the findings by 50%. I was just making shit up. But I got my probably a couple other jobs just off of that. The stuff I learned from going through the AW. Because once you do that, all the other interviews seem small and trivial after I went through that hell. So I recommend that if you could get it, go through it. Even if you don't get it, even at my age, I learned a ton doing that.
Yeah, that's what I was just looking at. So the Amazon Loop only has a 20% success rate, according to that article, at least. And it's a large focus is the general fit interview, and then they also have the Amazon specific prep, which includes that STAR framework. Yeah, so if you would have done your homework, PBO,
I wouldn't have got it. PBO ain't no fit. They give you I forgot the term. It's I hated that term. It's like this guy. He's like, I hate this term. He's a GRC evangelist. I'm like, dude, we going to church? So me and him we get in an argument, and Dwight's gonna laugh at. We start arguing about NIST. So I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, dude, you ain't gonna out NIST me, homie. Then after I got about it, this was a David Chappelle. I was like, when keeping it real goes wrong, you ever see that, Dwight? That was me. When keeping it real goes wrong, I was like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have been arguing with the evangelist about this, even though I was right.
Just for that, I would love to see you as an evangelist for AWS, man.
Oh my God, we was going at it. I'm thinking, dude, you talking, I live it. But I was thinking, yeah, that's when keeping it real goes wrong. I don't think that was very smart of me, but I couldn't help myself.
And that's one thing. Like with me, I even tell my boss, that's like, I don't see titles. And my wife tells me this one day. She's like, especially when I tell her that, hey, I had to meet up with HR, and she's like, what you did? Or like, oh my God, because I'm like that with everybody. I see my CEO and I will crack a joke with my CEO the same way I will crack a joke with the people that clean the toilets, because this is me. This is the real me. This is what you're gonna get.
Right.
And yes, sometimes I know that maybe maybe people will get upset, you know, and maybe one day I might end up in HR and be in trouble. But at the same time, I'm telling you the things the way it is. White is white, black is black, clear is clear, dark is dark. Like there's no cut and dry. This is what we come to business, and this is how it is. And sometimes people do not like to be told that.
PBO. Yeah, PBO, I think, is having flashbacks of the DoD and military prison.
Oh yeah,
That's an option.
I try to keep business to business, and the higher I go up, the less I say, because I talk a lot. My boss, who was in this big meeting, it was super contentious, and my buddy was leading. I'm interviewing. My boss goes, "Man, you never say nothing." I said, "Dude, I do risk for a living. There was nothing but downside for me to talk." I just say, "Well," he said, my buddy's name is Jan Bond. He's a guy though. He said, "Jan," I told Jan, if he wants me to say something, he needs to physically point at me. Then I'll chime in. It's just some things. It's just like, nah, dude, it ain't worth the risk. It's nothing but downside, man. I do risk in real life, so.
And then Dwight, did you want to talk a little bit about the new privacy thing that we're going to be doing soon?
Man, I'm on here not to talk about privacy. I'm here to tell y'all to break it up. It's late.
No, man, just crap out, man. We it's like drinking. We trying to mist everybody under the table, man. You
y'all need to pass some cocktails out or something. This is crazy. Right. Y'all trying to get an AWS session going on here?
No,
is this the loop?
Nah, I'm about to shut it down too. I'm running down. I'm watching football on Amazon while we talking.
Look, I got my football. Mine's over here. That's why I keep leaning this way.
Yeah, I'm watching my football going.
But, you know, that's a great idea. We could do a YouTube live loop interview. There we go.
It was brutal, man. It was the crazy thing about it though is, which I do my research. I looked and the guy at the DoD was in the background. I'm like, is that Scott? I'm like, I called him up. He goes, man, you should have told me. I was like, I didn't know you were there, man. So that's funny. But Dwight, it was a blessing because 4 months later, Amazon laid off like 10,000 people. I'm like, yeah, I got laid off. I just got there. I'd have been toast.
That was crazy.
And normally, first one in is first one out.
I'd have been toast. But I didn't need to make about 350,000 about 3 months, about 4 months. That's all I needed. I needed about 4 months.
You would have took it. It would have been laid off pretty. So what's that mean? Where you laying back in the cash?
Oh my god.
Yeah, you would have like. Yeah, that first paycheck you would have got, blew it right off the bat, and then
straight cash, homie. Straight cash, homie.
Yeah.
Chris, do me a favor, look up AWS L6 for me real quick and put it in there. But yeah, it was crazy. Look up security L6. It was some crazy amount, man. I was flabbergasted. And the crazy thing is, a guy saw my YouTube video on compliance on AWS and just reached out to me and asked me if I want to interview. I go, well, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
See, that goes to tell you, GRC can make money, and to what AB question was early, like, can you make a lot of money? Yes, you can. You can also make you can also do what Jerry does and be a consultant, and if you dedicate it as a consultant, you can be a great consultant for several companies and make money too as well. So again, it all depends on how you want to structure and who you want to work for. But yeah.
So it's showing L6 is 237 right now for that pay level.
Yeah, if you go by, they actually reduced the salary after
after the layoff.
Yeah, but after they talk to you.
Yeah, but
look at how much you get. Look at how much you get in a stock alone yearly. I mean, that's probably that's the entry level of a junior stock analyst.
So yeah, that's crazy. So when I did, it's funny because I did L6. And the guy liked me, but so L5 back then was like still was like 310. I was like, oh yeah, I interview for that. So, but you on sales? Yeah. Look for security, Chris. You on sales level?
Jeez,
no idea.
Yeah, you see sales. Yeah, find a security piece. You were looking at.
No,
sales.
it is unhealthy to be looking at this.
Nah, man, it should motivate you, man.
Wait.
So
security.
Why am I looking at $488,000 a year?
So that's what I'm talking about. So I want to try to know what I was interviewing for, man. That's what PBO ain't joking, man. Chris looking at sales, man. He insulted me.
480. I did security. I'm at L7 is 488 a year.
No, I was L6, not 7, but still.
Okay, L6 is $375 a year.
That's what I interviewed for right there. What's the stock options on that? What's the stock options on that?
$171 a year.
That's what I was every year. I was like, come on, man. I don't even make that a year.
That's just bonus money. God bless America.
And the bonus was like 60 or 70 every year. It was crazy. I'm like, man, I got to go get some of this bag money before I die, man. I got to go get some of that, man.
They're just throwing money at people.
Pretty much. I mean, they make plenty of it still.
It's my fault.
AWS prints money. But yeah, so that's what you should be shooting for, Dwight. I'm trying to.
Yeah, and then we're coming to an end here too. So we're at 2.5 hours in now.
I need to get off the line because it's 2.5 hours.
Thank you so much for joining in, Space Tacos. And then I wanted to throw it out there. So we're looking at doing like a privacy update stream. It's going to be pre-recorded and published on Tuesdays. So more information will come. But it's going to focus around the privacy aspect of the industry. That's one of my passions. And then also Dwight now holds 2 industry gold certifications for that.
Which one? It was the second one.
Yeah,
you got. No, you got the CIP. What do you got now?
I got the CIPP US. That's the one I just got, and then I previously had the CIPM, which is the one that I recommend to people coming from the risk management side because there's a lot of overlap.
Let me ask you a question. What are the current prices of those certifications, and do you have to maintain a yearly fee?
$100 million.
Pretty much any certification, you're going to have a yearly fee. Mm-hmm. So yes. And I would say that maintenance fee plus the original test was probably around $700. So for me, it makes more sense to choose a certification program where you can actually get more than one certification, because what they do is they discount this second. So when I come back for the second certification, it's like $400 instead of $500 or $600. So I would recommend people, if you got like limited budget, if you're looking at ISACA, ISC squared, or whatever, you choose something where you're definitely going to be in it instead of trying to pay to all of them, like you were talking about, having to give money to everybody. So
and see, like for example, IC Square actually started saying, "Oh, we're giving away the CC certification." Sure, they give you all the material and they give you the exam for free. But once you pass the exam, you had to start paying now $150 or $100 a year, and then so now you get hooked into their ecosystem, and then to bump out to a different one is and that's how it works. Yes, they're giving you the free one for free. It's a catch.
It's $50, and then they come for that renew money in less than a year's time. So
that's just the entry fee, though. That's just the entry fee for the dance, though. So I don't know.
And a year
like my thing
like this.
If you get that 400, you won't matter. Once the white get that 475, it won't matter.
I will pull up to the chat with a whole ham or something for y'all. Y'all know.
I thought you were gonna say pull up in your Rolls Royce Cullinan like my man Shador Sanders. Shout out to the Sanders.
I'm already here looking at senior analyst or SOC analyst for Amazon. Jeez.
Oh man,
he'll make FedEx leave his job.
Man, it was crazy, man. When he reached out to me, then he said that. Then a guy it's funny. He goes, you're not quite ready for the L6, but the L5 is like 335. Like, I think I can deal with the 335. Man, I was like, that's crazy money. And I've been in the game forever. I thought I made money until I saw that. I was feeling real poor. I was feeling real poor, man.
Even Chris is looking over at the AWS numbers now.
Man,
we're all on the secondary monitor looking at at Amazon availability.
That's crazy. I'm gonna do it again though. I'm gonna take a shot again. Probably 2025. Once I get that CISP, I'm gonna take another shot, man.
So now we know if in 2025 December we don't see PBO on the stream, we know he got the job and he hasn't said anything.
You ain't gonna need. I'm gonna be on there. I'm gonna be on YouTube. I'm gonna have a via Dwight like this. I'm gonna be. It must be the money. That's the ODI Sanders.
In a fur coat with a cigar.
Yeah. Talk about GRC for life. I'm getting tatted on my stomach. GRC for life.
That's a mafia ring right there.
Please make sure to have on the pin hat.
End it on that note, Chris.
The GRC mafia gonna be tatted on my stomach. AWS.
Awesome.
Yeah, and with the membership portion, that like the IAPP for the CIPP and the CIPM for the privacy stuff, those are like gold industry certifications for the privacy realm in particular. So if you plan on going that route, that's a really good route to go for the privacy side of things. And so that's like my plan is to stick with them for membership and ISACA. Those I feel are really good memberships to have, but like they provide all kinds of resources in there as well, along with updates and all kinds of ongoing stuff. Same thing with ISACA. Adding anything more, just I wouldn't be able to utilize that. I have a hard enough time just utilizing the memberships I have. But yeah, we plan on just doing like
And one thing that I will
Yeah.
always say, and this will go for every industry and any job, when you're doing the internship, when you're doing the interview, and if you get accepted a job, try to negotiate those things. Try to negotiate to make sure that hey, by the way, I got the certifications. You guys are willing to pay for the membership. So because the job that really wants you, they are going to be willing to pay for your certifications. I mean, my job paid for my membership to IC Square, you know, and so
yeah,
I put it in my expense report, and I put my expense report in the other stuff. If the job wants you, and they are willing to give you the job, they're also going to be able to put up right there. They're also going to be able to put up right there, because sometimes those are things that they're going to write off because they want you to. So for instance, a job that wants somebody to have a CISSP, okay, pay for my IC Square membership because you actually want that.
Yeah, and the bigger companies, especially when you go consulting companies, their government and big clients ask how many CISPs you got, how many AWS certs, because the client, which I think is always, they values those certs. I'm like, dude, I got 4 AWS certs. I paper. I just done labs. I ain't really done this in real life, but they do want you to have those certs. So a lot of times but what they do though is you got to stay for 2 years, which is not a long time, but like you said, FedEx will say they'll pay for them.
And here's another one that I learned throughout the years. Yes, sometimes companies do pay you for taking the certifications, and they want you to hold the certification, but because they're paying, they want to hold you for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
If you still actively interviewing for another job, and you have to pay X amount of money to that company or stay within 2 years, if the new company wants to hire you, just make sure to tell them, hey, by the way, before I can come to you, I own this company this. So are you willing to pay for me to walk out? Many companies, if they are serious about getting you, they give you the $2,000 that you own the company or whatever the certification was to pay it off and write off. But you had to be able to speak.
I agree with FedEx. My only pushback is I feel like those are my rights. Like I'm a rapper, so I want to buy my own rights so I can move as I want to move. But I definitely understand with FedEx. And I make a little more money than most people, though. I'm just gonna throw that out.
And you're absolutely right. I myself has actually done the work myself, so I don't have to own a company or anything. But depends on what you want to do. If you want to stay if you're not going to stay in the company for a while and you're planning and keep looking around, then maybe you don't want the company, you don't want them to own you. And I say own you in quote unquote because you own their money. So you do it on your own. You do it. You do the research on your own. You do the certification on your own. But if you're really not trying to move, and they're only asking for a year or 6 months, why not? 6 months goes like that.
Well, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's worth asking too, because I think a lot of companies that people are in don't have that predefined. But yeah, on the privacy aspect portion, we are coming to a close here. We're over the 2.5 hours now. But yeah, more information will follow. We're looking at just doing like privacy updates in a condensed format, and then talking more about the certifications themselves and probably some study in there or other resources too. It's a hot topic, and that's another thing that I don't feel is very well covered out there, especially in a more condensed under 30-minute pre-recording. So that'll be rolling out 2 to 3 weeks, but more information will be in the Discord. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and so forth. Definitely keep the questions coming and so forth. Next week on the 14th, we have Chris coming up all about ISO. There's a wonderful guide that he's providing for that to get into the 27001. And then it sounds like AB and FedEx are going to be doing an exit song.
Sure. GRC Mafia for life.
He said, sure.
What was that, AB?
Oh no, I mean, no, I put that comment in because I and FedEx we were playing just before Simply CyberCon on the general channel, and when I started typing in Hindi, and then FedEx responded in Hindi. So like what's going on? So maybe FedEx knows Hindi. You know, come on FedEx, you sing, and I will clap.
I am not. I can neither deny or confirm what I know.
Exactly.
Go ahead, FedEx. Go ahead, FedEx. Okay, I'll
But
sing a
actually-
line. Okay, here it is.
But actually,
You
ChatGPT
may not
was it.
understand this line, okay? You may not understand Hindi, but here it is. It means like, let us have a great evening, okay? So that's why. So this is a song from a Bollywood movie from 1970, okay? So here it is. Ye shaam mastani madhosh kiye ja teri roh koi piche तेरी ओर लिए जा